Maybe.
Oh, but I'm all wrong, 'cause I just can't go on, 'cause I just can't go on. Oh, about all of this, 'cause I'm a pessimist, 'cause I'm a pessimist.
Where's the gay guy? Gay guy alert. Gay guy alert. Red alert.
I might just keep it young. Oh,
Donald Trump, if you can hear us, please, Donald Trump, please save me. Please save me.
Here's Taylor. Oh, wow.
Welcome.
Hi.
We have a guest on tonight. This is Jake. I don't know if it's okay for me to say your last name or not, if you care. Yeah, what's up, Grayson?
Yeah, I'll go by Jake K right now.
Jake K. Okay. We've kind of been like jousting on Facebook politically recently this week, and you wrote like a very long comment to me, and I looked at it and I reacted it. And you were like, I thought that you were better than that. And I'm like, what I said is I don't like argue or debate on Facebook comments anymore, because I've just found it to be so unproductive. And quite honestly, it takes so much effort for such little results. I'm a bad faith actor in Facebook comments nowadays. It's for me. It's not for anybody else. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's understandable.
So I told him, hey, you can come on the show and we can have a conversations, and God bless his cotton socks. He's here. Takes a lot of, you got balls, dude. Honestly, like I really appreciate it. We try to have people.
Well, it's been on and off, dude. Like we've been trying to find someone with like similar opinions to be on the stream, but each one of them just drop out on us.
And they never are like, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't want to be on your platform. It's always like, oh, I fell asleep, or oh, my mother came over, or I had to pick somebody up. Like they don't want to, like they like push it off. They won't just like be like, nah, it's so respect, man. I really appreciate you being here. And enough of me talking. Like give the viewers like short little introduction to who you are, if you like.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate your invite, and you had invited me to have a critical conversation where we're talking about my support for Biden, and it's something I advocate for. I think that it's very important today, and so that's one of the reasons that I'm here, is to advocate. It's something that I feel is very important right now. I don't hear enough voices, people my age or just around, people who are really supporting Biden from kind of a grassroots level. And I'm just a guy. I live in Southwest Missouri, and I care about this, even if as a Missourian, my vote for Biden isn't going to ultimately make an impact, most likely, because this isn't really a swing state. It's still just such an important election. If I can have any influence anywhere, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about things that I believe are true and meaningful. And I'm very concerned about a lot of things in the state of our union and how our democracy. I'm seeing its fragility. I am nervous that we won't have the country that we grew up in, that things are changing, not for the better. I am very concerned about a lot of things, and I'd love to get into that with you.
Man, thank you for that introduction. And even just you're so articulate, and I do appreciate that. And I appreciate your passion, because listening to you, if you just changed Biden for Trump and like Democrat for conservative, I'd be 100% with everything you just said there. You know what I mean? Like I feel basically
it's like
the
we
same
mirror
way.
each other. It's really interesting how the left and the right politically, it's like we're living in different realities on the same world, but gosh, we're just seeing things just from totally mirrored perspectives, and it is mind-boggling, and it is. And now, personally, I think that I have good reason for my positions, but I'm sure that you do too. Nobody's walking around thinking that they have bad reasons. And when I've critically examined, I believe that it's founded. I believe that my concerns are founded, and I have a great deal of skepticism about what's going on in the conservative right, and yeah, those are some of the things I'd like to talk about with you.
I want to get right into some of that because I think that's very fascinating. And maybe if you think it'd be productive, you could kind of share your concerns, like the elevator pitch of your concerns with like the state of the right and where it's going. And perhaps maybe I could touch on kind of my concerns of the more extreme part of the left and what's happening there. We could have like a kind of a dichotomy of our concerns.
Yeah. One of my biggest concerns has to be that what I had said about it seems like we're living in different realities. Our sources of information, where we're getting our sources, what we consider reliable. I am very concerned about the sources that the right is considering reliable. I'm sure that that's also mirrored where a lot of the sources that people consider more liberal, they also think those aren't reliable. And it's I don't even know how to talk about it. It's just such a tangled thing, because it's like anything that I say, it's like it gets mirrored, and it's something that I barely even know how to talk about it.
Maybe we could broach it this way,
Yeah.
and kind of both like this will be exposing. Well, kind of. I talk about who I like all the time, but obviously you're politically active, so there's like commentators that you like to listen to. Like I'll list off a couple that I like first that I'm like really into, and I hope that you'll stick around after I say them. But like I really like Matt Walsh. That's a big one for me. I really like Gavin McInnes. Big fan. And just generally like I don't know, a lot of like what you would kind of consider like, I guess the Daily Wire is the new establishment, but most of those guys are fine in my book. And Tucker Carlson, I love Tucker Carlson. Who are your kind of like dudes, your like go-to commentators?
Yeah, I love that question. I have very much been enjoying Jon Stewart getting back on The Daily Show. He is, I love his articulation. I love his sense of humor, and I think he is very much on point. Yeah, who else do I listen to? I watch NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt, and I don't really get it. I understand that like there's kind of a culture of like CNBC. I think that's like a business one. There's like MSNBC. I don't like the talking heads on pretty much any station. They're mostly annoying and very biased. But I like I like getting a lot of just kind of a world update from the NBC Nightly News. Kind of just keeps me generally informed. Yeah, who else do I support?
I'd never heard of Lester Holt. That's an interesting one.
Yeah,
Lester Holt,
he's yeah,
Oh,
part
you're
of
familiar with it?
NBC. He's the anchor after who was the guy who lied about being on a helicopter in Iraq as a
Oh, I do
reporter?
remember
Oh,
that. That would have been
oh,
He
I know what you're
replaced
talking
him.
about.
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
Oh, there's a few other ones, but I'm forgetting their names. Here, I'll just go to my social media and I'll kind of stir it
Leighton,
up.
will you pull up a picture of Lester Holt for me to see?
Yeah, he's the. I can't believe you don't know who he is.
I might recognize his face.
He's the news anchor for nightly news NBC.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. No, for sure. Gotcha.
Another major source recently, especially regarding the economic injustices that we've seen, is Robert Reich. That's Reich, and he was in one of the cabinets. He was in the cabinet of Bill Clinton, serving as the Secretary of Labor, and I have not been in disagreement. I've been a little bit hesitant of his tone on like less than 5% of his posts. I have agreed with the content on all of his posts, which I find just crazy that I have almost never been in such agreement. He nails it on the head. I listen directly to Bernie Sanders as well. I listen to sometimes I keep an eye on just what's going on inside of the Congress. Sometimes I'll just tune in and just hear what people are saying. I'll get clips of that as well of what people are saying inside of the Congress. And
Absolutely.
let's see, I'm also seeing like Brian Tyler Cohen. He's very much liberal, and frankly, I think he's on point most of the time as well.
Okay, so you're making me think now. You're making the hamster run in the wheel in my head. I don't get this, and so I'm assuming that you don't like Josh Hawley. I love Josh Hawley. Have you thought about Josh Hawley much? Do you have an argument there?
Oh gosh, I had to pull him up because I just had to make sure. Yeah, I am very much opposed to his actions regarding the 2020 Trump election and his actions. Like raising the right fist and stuff, supporting.
Oh, I love that, dude.
yeah, and then later running away from them. Getting chased.
I'm
down.
sure some security guard instructed them to run out of the Capitol at that point. But I get how that is. People have held on to that.
He voted against the certification of the election, which I think is completely unjustified. I have seen absolutely no credible evidence whatsoever to even hint that there has been any fraud in the election. From everything that I have seen, it has been just as stringent as can be. I can't imagine how it could be more. I would assume, frankly, from our conversations, that you're probably in disagreement with that as well. But that's to me like, yeah. And so my belief in that really very much motivates my disapproval of Josh Hawley. And then there's also been, I forget the specifics, but I do recall a number of specific policies that Josh Hawley has endorsed that I'm very much against. But I'm not recalling the specifics. I just recall that I've encountered them in the past.
Okay. Well, he's very like based in biblical values. Like he wrote a book about biblical masculinity last year. So I think that very much like informs where he's coming from. Are you religious or agnostic or?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer this. I am proudly an atheist. I grew up as a Christian.
Oh, damn.
And I deconverted. It's very, very powerful in my life.
Man, I wish I knew that before. I could have called the episode talking with an atheist liberal. That would have really.
Okay, great. Yeah. Talking with an atheist liberal Biden supporter. Yep.
Yeah,
What an
yeah,
episode.
yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I get that AdSense. We make a lot of money here on the show.
Yeah, the big bucks.
Yeah, right. You grew up in a Christian home.
Yes, I did.
When did you stop believing in God?
I started to have skepticism when I was in first semester of attending college. And it was my first time being exposed to diverse ideas that were outside of my bubble. My parents kept me out of classes. They did not allow me to learn things. And so I was sitting in an astronomy class, and I was learning about the scale of the universe. And when I was learning about that and the well-founded reasons that they had, I was actually sitting there just in complete disbelief. I'm just like with my arms crossed. I'm like, I'm not taking, I'm like not paying attention. Like, this is all bullshit. Everything he's saying up there is a lie. He's trying to trick me and all. What actually got me was like in that environment, I look up at the wall, and there's this enormous world map. It's probably the biggest world map that I've ever seen. Just a projection map of the Earth, and I saw Pangea for the first time. I saw the puzzle pieces of South America fitting into Africa, and I'm like, that's just obviously, they were obviously together. Like that was just undeniable evidence to me. And I had, I'd shooed that away for, I don't know how, it seems to be a talent of Christians to just discredit evidence and just shoo it away. But I engaged with it, and I saw it, and that was what clicked me to start thinking more. And I was paying more attention in my astronomy class. I was paying more attention to science, and I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn about these things I hadn't learned before. And when I did, my belief just unraveled. It was a very profound experience for me, and that took about maybe 1 or 2 years to like really solidify. I had a small agnostic phase where I'm like, I wasn't sure, like maybe there is a God, maybe there isn't, I don't know. And I was just like, I felt kind of safe there for a while, but eventually I just lost any reason to believe. Any reason that I could come up with, it just seemed like a really lousy reason, and I could no longer justify the belief in the Abrahamic God, and that without any reason to believe, it just fell apart. And that's how come I'm atheist today.
Huh.
That's I feel like that is probably a very relatable story for a lot of people, like freshman year of college, getting into the world, and kind of your beliefs being deconstructed by the university, more or less. Which I would assume you think is a very positive thing. To me, it's like it like affirms me in me thinking these institutions are not good for society. But
yeah, my father is ashamed of my college education. He says it was one of the worst decisions that he ever made, sending me there. Yeah,
very interesting.
You remind me a lot of my brother.
Like, I thought the same thing.
You both, not just that you both have like longish hair for a while, but you definitely think the same way, and you definitely speak the same way. And I think like they're both, like both of you are like have a college education, and I think both of you have lost your faith through college educations and stuff. But I totally see where you're coming from, though. I don't believe in anything specific, just like Grayson said earlier. But I mostly believe in that I do feel like there's something kind of pulling the strings. I would say that I mostly believe in the Christian God, but I wouldn't say that I specify myself into any specific denomination or anything like that.
Appreciate you hopping in there. That leads me to a couple of little notes I took, the things that I wanted to circle back to that you had mentioned in talking about Pangea. I don't think believing in Pangea is necessarily antithetical to a Christian
No, but
worldview.
it is antithetical to the young Earth creationist theory, which is what I prescribe to, of a 6,000-year-old Earth, and it was completely incompatible.
I was thinking about that a little bit because I
That's
don't
fair.
I don't see how Pangea would work with the Bible's description. I guess I don't know.
It can't. The geological timelines, they just we can recognize, we have ways and methods of dating things, and every single method consistently does not line up with anything like the Bible says. It is much longer timelines.
Yeah.
Well, most, I'm not a young Earth creationist. I don't judge anybody who is. That's a fine understanding of the Bible as far as I'm concerned. It's not the way that I interpret the scripture, and I think that young Earth creationism is becoming less and less popular among Christians in the West, at least. I don't know about Christians in Africa or anything like that, but I think what is funny to me is I'm not a flat earther, but I also don't have anything against flat earthers. But a lot of my brothers in Christ do take that firmament line in Genesis and kind of run with it. But the firmament line is one of the only kind of like specific like especially in the creation story, there's not a lot of real specific like geographical detail, like as far as like continents and everything. So
It does reference like the 4 rivers converging on the Garden of Eden. Like I think that the Nile might be one of them, but it references specific rivers. I'm pretty sure, which places it in the Middle East.
Well, wouldn't the rivers have to be all part of the same continent, or they would be like it'd be like the ocean,
I'm not sure. I'm not quite that knowledgeable about it.
I don't know. I'm not sure what particular scripture you're quoting there either. I'm a little rusty, honestly.
I can look it up real quick. 4 rivers. Garden.
Don't make me go grab my Bible. Fine, I'll grab my Bible. Fine.
Is this a art book or? It says in Genesis 2:10. It talks about it.
A river watering the garden.
The Physon, the Gihon, the Tigris, and the Euphrates.
Whoa, wait, what?
In Genesis 2:10, a river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and there it divided and became 4 rivers. And it says here they were the Pison, the Gihon, the Tigris, and the Euphrates.
Oh, okay.
Which are real historical places,
right?
And apparently they flowed from Eden. But just because the Bible references places, I'm just as skeptical as can be about the authenticity of the entire book. If you're open to it, I'm curious about how come you guys, or at least Jacob, it sounds like you think that it's a reliable way to uncover the truth, at least under some interpretations. Maybe not like the like the firmament. There's some sort of way that you're interpreting, and I'm curious what your mechanism of interpretation is.
Well,
yeah,
I appreciate that question. If I guess I would want to answer that in 2 parts, where I say, as far as like discerning, like I think there's essential things one must understand about the scripture to be saved. And then I think there's a lot of non-essential things that brothers and sisters in Christ can disagree on. And it's not going to affect your salvation. But the essential things would be like, believing that Jesus is the Son of God, like recognition of like your fallenness, your sinful nature. You have to have an understanding of the Trinity. And of course, this is accounting for like my peers, you know, is kind of what I'm talking about. I'm not really speaking to like the indigenous tribesman who has never heard an English syllable in his life. I assume God will approach him and give him the opportunity to accept him in some way that would make sense to that tribesman, that is fair, you know. But in the West, we have a lot of opportunities to like kind of like ponder, and especially if you're into scripture. This is one of my main criticisms of like Catholicism, is they kind of gatekeep scripture, and they don't encourage you to get into the word yourself and to like test the scripture against itself. That would be like the first thing. More is like, how do I decide who I would trust to like know God and not know God? You know, like I'm very critical of everything, including Christians. Like I really have a lot of disdain for like Joel Osteen and Kenneth Copeland and guys of that ilk. I think they're really detestable. And I think there's probably a special place in hell for them, you know, but maybe they have salvation and they'll just get away with what they're doing. You know, I don't know. Like, it's not for me to judge their hearts, but I really, really don't like those men, and I really don't like what they're doing. As far as historical accuracy, and the reason I kind of trust the historical record of the Bible is because we have books in the Western canon and kind of that are older, and like the only people only really have qualms about translations of the Bible, but it was preserved in so many manuscripts across so many regions, and then was able to be tested against itself. You know, I really believe in my heart that the Bible has been preserved. And I know people that would say that only like the King James version of the Bible is the only good one or whatever. I am holding a King James version of the Bible. I think it's a very, very good translation. I don't think we would have the United States without the King James version of the Bible. But I think it is permissible to read more modern translations as long as they are not utter hogwash. You know, like NIV, American Standard Version, pretty good in my opinion. The Message Bible, I wouldn't recommend to anybody. The Passion Bible, I wouldn't recommend to anybody. My apologetics for the historical preservation of the Bible, I'm realizing could be a lot stronger. But just like really, it's not that hard to preserve manuscripts. Like we have a lot of literature from that time, and there's a lot of historical accounts of these stories. Like there's a book called Herodotus, The Histories, that kind of documents.
It's the first history. It's the first work of the first history book. The first time anybody had intended to record history and did.
And
whether or not they did it accurately, but it was the first.
Right. Oh, and that's why it's nice to have multiple sources. And I just like 2,000 years, if you think about it in the scope of history, like even if you are a young Earth creationist, with which none of us are, 2,000 years, I guess that's a lot. Actually, I take it back. But 2,000 years is not that much time in the scope of mankind. And to be so close to God coming as man, like clothing himself in flesh and sacrificing himself so that we could have a relationship with him. Like, I feel like I turned away from it when I was in high school. I had to test it for myself. And the interesting thing now is my parents raised me like very homeschooled and very sheltered from the world and very religious. And now I'm very religious and annoy everybody with like my Boy Scout tendencies to believe the scripture. But like, neither of my parents would claim the faith anymore, which I'm not outing anybody. You know, I feel like they're pretty open people about where they're at. And so I really feel convicted that, that I'm so close to God being incarnated in flesh in history, that for me to deny it with all of the writing on the wall and just the prophecy that's fulfilled in scripture. Like you look at something like Isaiah 53 that was written before Jesus Christ was born, and it talks about him being pierced for our transgressions. It describes the character of Jesus to a T, the Messiah. And then when and then, you know, like a couple hundred years later, he was born and the prophecy was fulfilled. So I'm very convinced that the Bible is reputable and accurate, and it is the source for truth, really.
Great. Yeah, I heard quite a few reasons there. I took some notes.
Cool. I know that was a lot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, trying to I'm trying to identify the claims about what is substantiating your belief. What kind of evidence is propping it up? And it sounds like it's it's been a canon of Western literature. It's been preserved across numerous manuscripts. It is internally reliable. That is without contradiction, and the prophecies therein are also a good way to know that the work is real and a reliable source of truth. Is that a good assessment?
You nailed it, man. I appreciate that.
Okay. Of those, a good way that I've found to see what's like really important is you can take one of them away and be like, well, would you still believe in it then? And if you would, then it's like, well, that's not a foundational thing. Then that's not like critical to your belief. You might help support it a bit.
This is a tough game with Christianity, though, because it's predicated on faith.
Yeah.
So if you could take everything away and I didn't believe, then it's like I kind of wouldn't have believed to begin with, in a sense, because becoming a Christian is kind of a work of the Holy Spirit. You know, it's not anything that I did. It's like supernatural in a way. Which is probably not helping my argument, but it's like that is Christianity. It's based off of faith. It is a supernatural thing. A man came back to life that was dead.
Yeah. Can you help me understand what faith means to you in the context of your Christianity?
Most recently, I've been reflecting on something. I think I shared it on Facebook, and it's kind of shameful that, you know, a short little like reel of a pastor from the 1970s can be like my main religious reflections for the past couple of days, but they have been, and I feel like they've been helpful. And it was kind of the idea that, you know, you don't always feel the presence of God. Like sometimes you feel the joy of the Holy Spirit, and you feel like overwhelmed, and you know that you're like in his hand, and that you are forgiven, and that things are going to be good. And you're like, you really feel the joy and the peace. But then oftentimes you don't feel that. Most of the time, probably you don't feel that. And it's those moments that kind of define faith, where there's so many, there is like intellectual encouragements, like the arguments I was making to you, I encourage myself with when I'm struggling to remember why I have chosen to trust in God and to proclaim his name, and to make myself, you know, even seem like a hypocrite, because I'm so far from perfect and I am very unapologetic about who I am, but I still feel like it is my responsibility to be honest. And, you know, the best that I can tell, this is how the world works. This is what's going on. So I don't want to keep that hidden from anybody, even if it's to my own detriment in some ways, as far as like public optics and my own standard, you know, like the guilt that I feel about, like, you know, like just a lot of stuff. Like I think that everybody feels guilt about like I was gonna mention like hookup culture, you know, like if I went and slept with somebody, it'd be great while I was sleeping with them, but the next day I would feel guilty about it. And I think everybody's got that to a degree, but I have a basis to point my mind to and say, oh, this is why I'm feeling this way. You know, like I was warned, I knew better. And there's like, What was your question? I'm totally getting sidetracked. I appreciate the challenges because this stuff is challenging for me to kind of articulate. I don't get an opportunity to a whole lot.
Well, thank you so much for having the conversation, and really, thinking about it. I was asking what faith means in your context, and you had said that um, sometimes you feel like joy and peace, and those moments define faith for you.
The opposite of that. So the
Oh, okay.
faith is like an action kind of, and you have to exercise your faith in those moments when you don't feel the joy and peace. You have to go, just because my emotions aren't aligning with the truth doesn't, I'm not going to turn my back on the truth, and I'm going to put my nose to the grindstone, and I'm going to chase after the truth still, even though I don't feel God's peace. I feel unworthy. I feel like I'm struggling. I I'm gonna look past all of these excuses that I could make to myself, and I'm gonna still go. Whether I'm on the right side of it or not, I know who the King of Kings is. I know who reigns at the end of the story. Um, and sometimes when you don't feel the peace of God and you are struggling, you question your salvation. You've been there. We've all been there. But being able to because I feel like that moment of doubt is when sin slips in and we give ourselves excuses, and the devil kind of uses that to be like, to give you this like opportunity to cast it off as an illusion and to chase the lusts of your flesh in some sense, and to give into something that you feel like you were restricted from by pursuing God. So faith is like kind of this thing that the Holy Spirit gives us when it convicts us to like be able to like persevere through that stuff. It is a hard thing to define. I'm kind of realizing as I try to explain it.
Yeah. How did you initially develop your faith in the Bible?
Well, I grew up in the church, and then my mom has this story about me throwing my hands up when I was like 4 at the altar call, like, "Oh, me! He's talking about me. I'm the sinner. I need saved." So I don't know if I got saved then. I kind of doubt it, but I'd like to think so. But I grew up, my parents separated. That really shattered my worldview and kind of what I perceived to be true, and about because they had been raising me in the truth. So then I doubted everything they had told me. Fucked off a lot as a teenager, made a lot of mistakes, and had a lot of conversations with people that ended up leading me back to the conclusion that I was actually privileged in the sense that I was raised in the truth. And as far as like the Bible being true, my parents were right about that. Even if they don't claim it anymore, I actually had that to my advantage. And like I was very into Eastern religion, like Buddhism and like meditation. And I won't lie to you, I still think a lot of that stuff is aesthetically beautiful and fascinating historically, and all sorts of positive things I could say about it, even if ultimately, based off of the truth of the scripture, it is demonic. It can still be like pleasing to my flesh, so to speak. But my faith was built up by God delivering me from, I should be dead. I should be dead right now. And I've cursed at God. I've screamed at the sky. I've disrespected my father. I've stolen from my mother. I've tried every drug I could get my hands on. I drove drunk. I have 2 DUIs. I feel like the Lord has done something in my life where he's given me favor with people. Even though I have no credentials really. Like I'm somebody who's pursued art, and I'm a laborer now, and I'm getting into jujitsu, but it's like, there's like, I can't like point, I'm a high school dropout, man. Like I don't go around projecting that and talking about that all the time. I'll lie about it on a job application, and that works quite well. but it's like, I've made so many foolish and stupid choices, and yet I feel like he's like made me wise and like and led me through all of this self deception and like all of the like the dude the world like that we live in and this system of control that we live in, you know, these man-made institutions. If man is fallen and he's created everything around us, that means that sin has gotten through the cracks and everything. So this institution is all based around like the most like kind of basic level stuff of man, which is essential. But when it's the pinnacle of everything, it is very corrupting, especially to young people looking up to who the world is telling us are important people, you know. And some of them, like lots of historical figures and philosophers, and these people should be remembered. But there's like there's so much like I'm a musician, you know. A big part of what got me away from Christianity to begin with was like my venture into trying to be popular in a original band playing around town, and exploring different spiritual routes to kind of like be a good songwriter or to perform better on stage. And like I'm a very materialistic person, but my psychology has always had like a spiritual bent. Like even when I denied the deity of Christ, I still believed in a spiritual world. Um, so I've never really fully been convinced by the atheist argument. I don't think, not as far as I can remember right now, but so maybe that had something to do with it. So me getting involved in other religious practices and some of the wickedness of that stuff being revealed to me. For example, one time I went to this retreat out around the Ozarks where they do like peyote ceremonies. And it's legal because it's on like an Indian ground or whatever, even though it's all white people. I don't know. It's like some weird loophole. But like I did this, and one of these like practitioner guys that is supposed to lead people through spiritual trips to better them, he's very confused himself. And me and him, I'm like a 20-year-old man at this point, very not wise, and just like, but like I'm putting him on the ropes by accident. We're both tripping, and he's trying to justify like this practice to me. And he's saying, well, what do you do when, you know, the spirit of your dead aunt pops into somebody for a second and looks at you while everybody's on this journey and goes, Jeffrey, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and he says, he like, I struck a nerve with him, and he says this to me. And I like kind of had this realization where it's like, wow, these drugs really are opening up like spiritual doors and letting some really fucking malevolent shit happen, even if it doesn't necessarily hurt anybody physically. It's like it confuses people so deeply. Yeah. Man, you got me going. You got me going, bro.
Well, yeah, it's a deep topic for sure. And I'm happy to keep on talking about it for however long you want. It's deeply important to me. Just because of my personal experience with the clarity that I've had as an atheism, as an atheist, it's something that I find powerful. I think it's given me clarity of thinking, and I don't have to like reject stuff as much, and so that's how come I care about it. And so I'm very interested in what you have to say, your reasons supporting it, and how you figured out that like this is the right path. It's something that personally I'm very skeptical in, and I really value these types of conversations. So I suppose I'd like to just tell you that I'm thankful for your having a platform here where you have
Thanks, man.
where you have conversations with people who have different opinions, and you talk about it, and we can bridge understandings together. So I'm really thankful for that.
That's too kind. You're too kind, man. Really. That's awesome. This conversation's more productive than I even hoped for. Really. I didn't think we were going to get to this point here. Yeah, the atheism thing is kind of crazy. Like
Yeah, you had said that like you didn't really believe the reasons.
It's just, I feel like life is so like, it's a hard sell, man. It's a really hard sell for me because I see patterns everywhere and everything. You know what I mean? And it's just like I, s- I see design. You know, like all of this. Are you like a Darwinian evolutionary kind of guy, or what is like the bedrock for like where does reason come from for you?
Where does reason come from? I think the answer to that might be logic. If you can logically demonstrate that it's valid reasoning, and there are certain tools of logic. It's I mean it's if stuff makes like I don't want to just say if it makes sense because that's not really a great methodology.
I mean,
Like
90% of
kind
stuff
of
that's
if
true. You know, like most things, like there is like some kind of method to the madness. Like math, for example. I'm not very good at math, but like 2 + 2 = 4. Like that makes sense, you know, like
yeah,
there's like an
math is
equation
truth.
there.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, you can't argue with math. And
Well, you'd
that's
be surprised.
well, and it's funny because we've gotten to a point where there's like I've seen stuff about like math is racist because there's like only one answer, and it's just like that's
Yeah.
racist to say that. You're saying black people can't do math when you say that. Like that's racist, actually. But
Yeah, it's absurd. I've had conversations with people where they're like, no, people are like controlling these equations and stuff, and like for real, and like I
well,
would demonstrate. It was a conversation I was having with somebody. I care very much about math too.
it's
It's
important.
it
It's
very
very
much is.
important.
Somebody had said something about zero. It was I'm forgetting. It was like a rounding thing, um, and they were saying that that like 0.99 repeating forever. They said that that was not equal to 1. They said that it always approaches 1, but it's not equal to 1. And you would be shocked at how heated this discussion got. It for clarity, it absolutely is equal to 1. 0.99 repeating is mathematically demonstrated to be equal to 1. And I could demonstrate that, but it
Wait.
I
Now
got
you're fucking me up because it's like, what would be the point of the distinction if it was not different?
yeah.
What?
It's I don't know. I couldn't really tell you. I'm not I don't know that part.
Oh, bro, you're killing me. Same,
Wish I
but
could, but
different.
I'll tell you when. Yeah, I'll tell you when I don't know something. I'll be honest with you there. But I do know I can demonstrate that the 0.99 repeating is in fact equal to 1, and that was a point that was highly contested, like brought into like philosophy, and like these people don't own these equations, and like no, it's demonstrated. You can look at it. So that's one way that I determine reason. If you can like really demonstrate it, and science has been a very foundational thing for me, where I've learned better ways of thinking and reasoning. The primary benefit that I have found in the scientific method is its falsifiability, that things can be falsified, and that because that's very important. There's some things that they can get you in like a logic loop, and you can be stuck in it, and you could never know if you're stuck in it because you would have no possible way of demonstrating if you were incorrect. And if you couldn't possibly know if you were incorrect about it, how could you know if it was actually true?
Do you have a good example of something like that?
Christianity.
I guess I set you up for that. I set myself up for that. But it's like Yeah. Well, you couldn't really you couldn't do the scientific formula. I remember forming scientific hypothesis and having to test it in school. I do remember that, where it's what if then is the thing. If you do this to object A, then it'll affect object B this way, or whatever. You know what I mean? That's kind of the general scientific hypothesis, right?
If then, I
Or
mostly know that from Excel personally. I'm not too familiar with it as a
there is
mode
a
outside of that.
format, a really simple format for scientific inquiry.
The scientific method.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, I've got I can pull up a resource on it, because I mean it's kind of it's a strange thing. People think that the scientific method is this one thing, and it's it flows, it goes back and forth on itself. I don't want to speak outside of my knowledge base, so I have a good resource I'm going to pull up here on it.
I mean, I was always just taught that the scientific method in school was, let's see, it was that you have an observation or a question, you research it, you give a hypothesis, you test with an experiment, analyze the data, and report your conclusions.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm looking for. Kind of like the cookie cutter. That's what I remember from school. Yeah.
It's easy to remember, and it's not necessarily accurate from my research, at least from what I've encountered. One source that I value very much is a page called Thinking is Power. They're completely dedicated to educating people on critical thinking skills, and they had a definition of the scientific method here. They say that it's a common misconception about the scientific method. There's no single scientific method. The recipe-like scientific method presented in countless textbooks is at best an oversimplification, and at worst wrong. There are endless ways to collect and evaluate data. Science isn't just a collection of facts. While science textbooks are often filled with facts, science is a process of learning about the natural world. It isn't just what we know, it's how we know it. And there's more on here. If there's a place that I'm able to share any media, I'd be happy to share this. It really goes down into outlining what the scientific method is. And one thing that I found very, very interesting is it is not a democratic process. Science doesn't care how many people believe that something is true. It is a what is the word? Some type of shoot, I'm not quite recalling the word, unfortunately. It is entirely based on the evidence and the robustness of the evidence. And
it should be
maybe monocracy.
I'm not science. Sure. Yeah, well, it's it'd probably be like a benevolent dictatorship. You have the guy spearheading the thing, and everybody else is working to meet to facilitate that idea. Like Steve Jobs was a benevolent dictator. In a sense, in his own company. Yeah, I this is a big contention between people on the right and left, like ourselves. But with the whole believe the science thing, where I mean that's just gonna shoots and ladders us back to COVID-19. Because to me that was the big thing then, right? And I'm pretty convinced that the science is back on that one, and we were being lied to, and most people kind of agree on that now. But it took a while for us as a society to get to the point where everybody was like, yeah, there was a lot of bullshit happening back then. I feel like the Democrats.
For me to comment, we'd need to get down to a little more specifics than we were being lied to.
Like masks, doing anything.
Yeah.
or the claims about the vaccines primarily. Like there was claims like about how if you get the vaccine, you won't get COVID. People were told that initially. Then it's COVID won't be as bad, and then you won't be able to spread it if you get the vaccine. None of that is true. With the exception of maybe you could argue you won't get COVID as bad if you get one of the vaccines, but you'll still be able to spread it and you'll still get it. But that was very mainstream talking points back in those days, and the mantra was believe the science. So to me, that ruined the future credibility of like institutions to tell me what the science is, like major think tanks and like the CDC, like the places that I'm supposed to be able to trust as public institutions that my tax dollars go to. I will never trust again because of that.
Wow.
And that doesn't mean that I appreciate good science. Like, I mean, it's out there for sure. But
how do you differentiate between good science and not good science?
If it affirms what I already believe, then it's good science. No. Just kidding. No, it really would have to, like, it would have to pass my own personal smell test. Like, I would look at who's associated with it. What are the tests being conducted? What kind of, like, who's funding it is the biggest thing. Why am I seeing this? Who wants me to see this? Because lots of these, and scientists will talk about this, how, there's lobbyists and like companies that like will like fund scientific studies, and if you don't kind of do what they want you to do, your study's probably not going to get published, not going to get funded. There's a lot of corruption there that seems to need weeded out for us to have some better science than we do now. Because I'm not against science, obviously. Like, I like cars and planes and trains and TVs and computers and live streaming, and science is cool. Science is great, but so this gets to another thing, is just like distrust of the institutions, where Democrats hold most of the institutional power in America right now, as far as like companies, even just like state institutions and federal institutions, like like Disney is pretty left, like all of the Hollywood stuff, like most of the brands, most of like even we've been tracking the school board stuff a lot in town, and it seems like most of the money and power is behind these liberal candidates, and like it's all about like, oh, don't let these scary conservatives ban your books, when the main argument is kind of just like, hey, let's not have books with gay sex in public libraries, which to me is reasonable. I don't think you're the one who wants to make an argument for, like, I could kind of see how somebody on the left could make an argument for gay sex and books, because to be fair, when I was in high school, there was books that had some sex scenes in them. We always got those books and fucking passed them around because we thought that it was funny, and we felt like we were getting away with something, and something had slipped through the cracks. Like, to me, it's clear that a lot of that stuff probably shouldn't have been there either, which is perhaps a productive conversation that will come out of all of this. But I mean, culturally, like at large, but conservatives don't have a lot of institutional power, and you can see that in like the way that Donald Trump was attacked and is attacked by the media, and like these liberal DAs, and we're going to fine him $400 million, and if he can't pay it, we're going to take away Trump Tower, and like he's the richest dude in the world, and even still they're like pretty good at keeping him down and keeping a finger on him, and I think that's why a lot of people on the right like me support Donald Trump, because it really does feel like he's standing in the way. And as somebody who was kind of ostracized from the local music scene for having some conservative beliefs and being outspoken about it, while a lot of my peers were very outspoken about some very extreme liberal beliefs, Their posts and them kind of being part of that conversation was appropriate. But me being a conservative, that was inappropriate. And I was a homophobe and I was a racist and I was a bigot and I was a transphobe. And I was, I've been called everything under the sun so many times now. And it's those words just like lose all their power. And it makes somebody like me identify with a person like Donald Trump, where before he was a Democrat or before he ran as a Republican, I didn't like Donald Trump. I saw him as like some fat cat asshole that's just like bulldozing everybody and doing whatever he wants. Like, it wasn't somebody I could identify with. But once he decided to stick his neck out and kind of take all of that on, I have so much respect for the man now that wasn't there before, where I feel like that's kind of the opposite of like most people on the left kind of liked Donald Trump before he ran as a Republican, like The Apprentice and everything. Like, I wasn't a fan of The Apprentice. I didn't even know it was on hardly. I don't know.
I couldn't believe it. My marketing teacher at high school, he wound up in our marketing class. We spent half the semester just watching The Apprentice. And this was like 2011 or like 2012. That was literally like half of the semester. And I don't recall if like we got quizzes or something on it. It was just such bullshit. And I cannot believe that actually came in handy for me. And like having some like that was the only familiarity that I had with Trump. That he wound up being president of the United States. So it wound up being kind of important.
That's hilarious. That's so interesting that you mentioned like your business class in high school, because that was the first time I ever caught on that was, this must have been like 2013. Like, I'm a sophomore in basic business and I hear my teacher and one of the smart students that wears like penny loafers and actually does his homework and classwork and stuff. Him and the teacher were having like a cool kind of casual conversation. And they were both just like, yeah, I feel like Donald Trump's the only person who'd really understand what's going on. Like, we're in such financial crisis. Like, and this is before he announced that he was running. And these, like, somehow these prophets in my basic business class sophomore year saw the writing on the wall. And
yeah, it's fascinating. I wonder what they saw that I didn't at the time. I was completely oblivious to him, but apparently, I mean, quite a few people did see something.
Apparently,
this might be a great segue into talking more about politics and one of the reasons that you invited me on here was to talk about my support for Biden and like what the heck? Why would somebody actually support that old guy?
Well, and you kind of mentioned it in the intro. You're like a young person, like a grassroots guy. Like, it's all so weird to me because I'm like, you're like a normal dude. Well, and I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm sorry. That's not cool, I guess. But like, you are like a super normal looking and acting dude, and you're like, so yeah, I want to hear your pitch.
Well, the biggest reason, obviously, what got me, I say obviously, I'm not sure if it's so obvious, but I was very nervous in the, well, I did not enjoy Trump's presidency whatsoever. What got me to vote for Biden was that he was not Trump. That was my biggest. But eventually, I'll tell you, he really grew on me. I could not believe how much he grew on me. I enjoyed his demeanor. I enjoyed how I was not enjoying the rhetoric or the environment that Trump had created. Just this climate of just clashing and division, and it was really something. I appreciated the stability that Biden offered, the initial things, my goodness, his first 2 years of presidency, he got so much done before the Republicans got the majority in Congress, and at this point, I feel like it's just pure obstinatism by the right. But Biden did a lot, and he invested in infrastructure, which wound up being a bipartisan bill. He supported healthcare in ways that Trump was very much threatening. His his response, oh gosh, bringing me back. Like, around the election, we're dealing with COVID, and I understand that you have a great deal of skepticism about what was going on. I generally follow a lot of the narrative of how, mainstream says that things happened. We don't know where it came from necessarily, but it was a very serious thing, and we needed to
We know where
deal
it
with
came
it.
from.
Yeah.
Now
I-
we
well,
100% know where
there's
it came from now.
100% know where it came from.
100%. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Wow.
It was a lab leak, for sure.
There's good reason to think there was a lab leak. I'm not 100% confident. There are other explanations as well.
We know it wasn't somebody eating a bat. We know it wasn't that. 100% we know it wasn't that. Wasn't a wet
We all
market.
thought it was though.
I heard the wet market thing a lot back in the day. I'm like, ate a bat?
That was like the
Yeah,
main
yeah.
first few months.
Mhm.
Yeah, don't know. And
Oh.
what happens is, like, the farther away that you get from the initial starting point, the harder it is to go back and trace it. And
Really
and
is.
we lost it. There's no way to go back and know. And yeah, there's a couple, origins, wherever it came from, whether it was man-made or natural.
Oh, dude, it was man-made, bro. Bro, I'm
I don't
sorry.
I don't like to speak definitely outside of my knowledge base.
I mean, I don't know.
But
It's just like,
whatever it was, regardless,
It's from Wuhan. It's from the Wuhan lab.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, all of that stuff's
from
including
all
I hear that.
from all that
Yeah.
I have seen and Jacob has seen, it definitely feels like it came from that lab in Wuhan. And I thought for a while that's what they were going with. But then they just kind of dropped it and stopped talking about it.
well. They
It's
dismissed it
real
as a
fishy. It's real fishy. Like, they had
it is
that
really
like coronavirus lab in Wuhan. Like, I mean,
I
there's,
think
like,
there needs to be
there's
more.
serious reason to see that as viable, and I believe that
China is asshole.
I mean, it's like they're international enemy, and like I mean, perhaps they did make it as a biological weapon. I mean, a lot of bits and pieces about the coronavirus seems a little fishy. I think there needs to be more research into that, but
Well, they need to be held accountable for it, dude. Like they lied. Like when like NATO and everybody, it was like when this stuff first got out, like they could have contained it and they could have helped it not spread, but they tried to China tried to preserve its public image and tried and actively covered up where this had actually come from.
I mean, that's the main reason why it all feels kind of fishy, is because they were trying to do this major cover up and then push the blame on other countries and like advertisements saying that Americans are stupid because they won't mask up or, listen to what China is telling them.
I don't want to totally derail.
I'm regardless of where it came from, it's the management of this circumstance to save lives that becomes important after, it's just a fact of the matter that this thing exists. And I very much I am livid at Trump's response. 1 million people died. Not that many people needed to die. And it was irresponsible. He dismantled pandemic actions, in his presidency in order to, like, he had something like, for every law that you put on the book, we got to take 1 off or 2 off. I don't remember exactly what it was. But he was removing a great deal of stuff, and he removed pandemic action plans that we had in place that were developed by the Obama administration, and we were less capable, and we were not.
So you wanted more draconian lockdowns, because we had the 2-week thing that was Trump, where he made.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what the right strategy was, but there was not a strategy for the longest
One of my
time.
biggest criticisms
for the longest
of Trump.
time.
This is this time in history is one of my biggest criticisms is Trump too, because he's so prideful that he still is like Project Warp Speed. That was me. I got so many vaccines out. It's like, yeah, good job.
Yeah,
dude.
I think that was
the vaccine was useless. Yeah, I think that's a bad look for him.
I think the vaccine was created like way too fast. And
did he get a fake vaccine then?
I think it was a fake vaccine. I think it was an actual vaccine, but I mean,
if you asked If you ask the homie Jesse, you remember Jesse Layton. If you
Yeah.
ask Jesse, he would say that it's all a stage and that Trump is evil too, and it's definitely a fake vaccine. But he's a good Christian. He thinks Biden is evil as well. He doesn't trust anything that's like on TV, which is fair.
But I wouldn't say like Trump's entire administration and his actions was bad during the pandemic. Like he did a lot of good things, like he took early action to cut off the travel to China. He built the world's leading testing system from nothing. I'm just reading all this from the White House coronavirus.
Oh, hey, I want to pop up some comments. Josh Poole left some comments. What time is it now? I don't even know how old these are. You're supposed to watch the comments, Layton.
We've been talking, so I didn't want to bring them up.
You still got to bring the comments up. Then more, because people won't comment if you don't bring them up. He's my first day of statistics 101 in college. The professor stated that he was going to teach us how to lie and back it up with numbers. I want to take that class. Data is easily manipulated depending on what results do you want. Those are from when we were talking about science, I'm assuming. I believe the government has within the last year confirmed that it came from the lab in Wuhan. I thought so too. I thought that was like pretty undisputed at this point. It matters where it came from when our government actively funded the gain of function research at the lab. Yeah. It gets deeper. I forgot about that part. Dude, I don't want to totally derail onto the COVID stuff, but
it is important. It's an important part of my foundation.
You're right. Yep.
Yeah, and I don't discount. I do not discount those theories. It is a very legitimate hypothesis that it came from the Wuhan lab. A lot of fishy stuff. Absolutely. I also just don't want to completely discount that it might also be from other things without solid ways of knowing. We can't know. Well, maybe we can. Maybe we could sequence it in certain ways. Maybe there are ways that I don't know that maybe people know better than I do about it.
I think that there is something about that. I just listened to this book called Blood Money. It was like a New York Times bestseller. It came out just like a month or two ago. I listened to it on Audible. I would highly recommend it, and it's like fairly bipartisan. The guy criticizes both Democrats and conservatives that have been caught taking money from China and allowing what they're doing to our culture to continue. And he documents, the precursor for fentanyl that's being shipped into Mexico and made there. He documents the switches that felons and stuff are buying off the internet, off these Chinese websites, and are being sent here that modify Glocks to be fully automatic.
Glock.
Literally. And you hear rappers rap about switches, and I guess fully automatic like firearm deaths have gone up like an exponential amount in the past couple of years, and that's because of these switches being shipped in from China. And he calls out people he calls out Biden and the Biden family, but he also calls out Mitch McConnell, which good riddance. He's a rhino anyways. And but when he gets into the COVID stuff, he kind of talks about the sequencing of that's how they discovered. It was a big part of the way that they discovered it was made in a lab, because there's like a molecule that attaches, and typically if the virus comes from animals, the most dominant molecule that attaches to its subject will be to attach to that animal that it came from. But the molecule on this, it looked to be designed to attach to humans primarily. So that was really fishy. I'm explaining this like a caveman, but he goes over this stuff in this book. I just finished it a couple days ago. It's very, very good. It's called Blood Money on Audible. One credit, worth the credit. But
regardless of where it came from is kind of my position. I really tend to reserve my placing belief or confidence in positions until I really, really have solid reason that I can also understand, I'm sure that I could probably read that book, but I wouldn't know if you were bullshitting me or not. I wouldn't know if you were lying to me. I wouldn't be able to tell. I'd have no way of knowing. And so it really is just completely outside of my expertise. And I just don't know. That's really my position. And
Oh,
I
man.
was
Don't start with that. Don't start with that.
it's great to say that you don't know. If you don't know stuff, there's no reason to bullshit your way through it. I wish more
Well,
people would say it.
I appreciate that, but because we're jump piggybacking off of a conversation about like our spiritual dispositions, you being an atheist and me being a Christian, uh, it makes me wonder once again, like, because like surely the scientific process, if you read that, if you listened to that book and you followed the citations and you kind of did your own research, you could confirm or deny the validity of the statements being made.
I don't know if I ever could really. I mean, if it were related to like some serious health stuff, like genome sequencing and stuff, I don't know that, and I don't know how much I'd have to read to know that. There are experts who do know that stuff, and there's a community of experts who do know that stuff, and they formulate a consensus based on the reasonings and the evidence. And if the reasoning is bad, it doesn't hold up in those communities. At least that's my understanding of it. And if there are really lousy reasons, these scientific communities, like, they are founded on reason. They're not just asking for blind trust. They have evidence, they have processes, and it's been very, very powerful in everybody's life expectancy. Like what was life expectancy back in the 1840s?
Pretty low, I'd imagine.
I think it was like 40 years old. Like, no joke. I'm going to look this up. 1840s life expectancy. Like, science has given the gift of life. Yeah. A newborn baby born in 1841 was expected to live to 40. Science has given the gift of life.
The numbers on that are kind of skewed too, though, because it's like most people died before like the age of 18.
Yeah. Well, childbirth.
Like 12,
most of them died in childbirth. There was a queen in I forget where, but she had 7. This was in the 1870s. There was a queen who had 17 babies. None of them, not a single one of them, lived to be 18, and then they wound up like she couldn't carry on her lineage.
No heirs. Wow.
Yeah, no heirs, and she had 17 children who died.
She tried.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Tried. Yeah.
And women dying in childbirth and such. And I mean, these are that's an excellent point. It gets skewed because of that, but you can't just discount it. That's very significant, and we have dramatically improved the life expectancy through science, and it's through these methodologies that are robust and founded, and it has given the gift of life. And we seem to say that, like, yeah, it works in all these areas, but not in these areas that, like, I'm personally convicted to. It seems like most of the areas of disagreement seem to be like around these like controversial things. They seem to be around like certain narratives and such. Conspiratorial thinking. And yeah, it's gosh, it's I find that to be a very, just an extremely dangerous thing. The amount of scientific illiteracy going on. Like, I didn't know science until I really looked into it after college. And I was not exposed to it. I was systematically removed from the science classes, and I cared about it a great deal. And I looked into reasons for things, and there are really good reasons for knowing things. And it's really important to know, like for example, double blind studies are just super, super important in health. You give somebody you give one person the actual drug, and then you give the other person a sugar pill, and it's double blind, because not only do the patients not know who's getting what, but not even the people who are performing the study know. It's like documented through code, and then they're able to decipher it afterwards. Nobody knows who's getting what, and then we can measure it based on large sample sizes. And that's what we did with like the COVID vaccine. That's how we know that the COVID vaccine is effective, through double blind studies. And
Oh man,
no,
come on, man, come on, man.
yeah, we do have reasons for knowing things, and if there's good reason to for that to be doubted, fantastic. But I mean, it's been replicated, and the reasonings, they're robust.
What, like, okay, so isn't it like a logical fallacy, like an appeal to authority? Is that, or is that not a logical fallacy? Is that just something that people say when they're losing arguments?
Well, it is absolutely a very significant logical fallacy. It's the authority of consensus is not authority. It's the consensus is evidence, which it takes, it seems a little strange, but the consensus itself is evidentiary. It's not demonstrated. It's not demonstrative that, like, okay, this is the case because all these people said so. No, but it does give a lot of credibility when you have 95% of people in the field who are in agreement with this position.
I agree.
It's
You know,
just
there's got to be
evidentiary.
like, there's got to be multiple things though. Like it has to be like a large consensus, and it has to be tested under different conditions. Like it can't just have like one condition. Like it's gotta, like, man, I
Gotta be
really,
robust. Yeah,
I don't trust
gotta
the
withstand the
institutions.
real
Like,
scrutiny of nature throwing anything it can at it.
like even the thing that you just said about like the double-blind studies with the mRNA experimental COVID vaccine, and that's why they're safe. It's like, that's just, to me, that's just propaganda, man. Like, you know, it's just, they have the words that make us feel comfortable with the thing, and they give it, and they go, oh, double-blind study, it's safe, effective, take it, we'll give you a free cheeseburger, please take it, please, why don't you want to take it? Everybody's got to take it. You can't leave your house till you take it. Like, take it. Like, no, I don't want it. Like, you could have a quadruple blind study. I don't want that fucking thing. Like, you know, and no offense to anybody that took it. Like, I get that lots of people are worried about their friends and family and grandparents and all that kind of stuff, you know, but oh man. Oh,
yeah,
brother.
and I mean, it's I am no doctor. I have no health education, science education, no health science education. I am very ignorant in these areas. You know, this is from my rudimentary understanding of it. But I do trust people who are founded, and I trust that people, I trust people with expertise who have their peers checking them, and I'm confident that if they were wrong about something, that they would be called out really quickly by the peers in their community. People, science lives and breathes off of being, if we can demonstrate that something's wrong, that's when people win Nobel Prizes. It's prized in the scientific community to, if you can demonstrate something wrong, that's how it progresses. And when you can't, and it can, if it both can be demonstrated incorrect, but it is resilient, and so it is falsifiable, but it has not been demonstrated incorrect, we seem to have pretty good reason for thinking that it is.
I think there's historical evidence to be skeptical of institutional power. Like even the guy who discovered that the earth was not flat, who was that? Like fucking well, who was it?
Yeah, it was like a some,
not like, was it Socrates or Aristotle or Plato? Was it
here,
one of those guys?
I'm on it. 2 sticks
or Hegel. I don't know. Because I'm so kind of defeats my point. But you know, I'm pretty sure that guy was killed. It's kind of my point there.
Yeah, I'm forgetting exactly what the experiment was.
Oh,
or his name rather. I remember the experiment. he's somebody had you could look down a well, and the sun would be pointing straight down in this location, and then over here, like 200 miles away or kilometers, because it's not America, they would look at they would look at another well at the exact same time, and you could see that like the shadow is entering, or the sun is now casting a shadow in this well where it wasn't over here at the exact same time, and they are longitudinally identical in place. So we just moved like north, and that we've known that for like 2,500 years, and that it actually, funny enough, that could have demonstrated that the Earth was can shaped, like a cylinder. I think. It could have demonstrated that. Yeah, so it could have demonstrated that, like, okay, well, maybe you got maybe the sun's shining straight down here, but then over here, but look, it's actually like a can. But then if you get 3 sticks and you just do this in like one other location, you can triangulate it, and you can definitely demonstrate that.
I'm getting here. It says Italian scientist Giordano Bruno was burned at the stake for teaching among other heretical ideas, Copernicus's heliocentric view of the universe. In 1543, Nicholas Copernicus detailed his radical theory of the universe, in which the Earth, along with the other planets, rotated around the sun. So I the guy was burned at the stake for being a heretic, when it's like, it's common knowledge today that is how things work.
The original is I can't pronounce his name. Yeah, I put it in the chat if anyone wants to try it.
Eratos Thenis. I don't know.
Eratos Thenis?
Eratosthenes. I don't know.
Yeah, he was
erect penis. Is that what it is?
That's the one, yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah, it's we've known things for a very long time. We have reasons for knowing them. So I suppose getting back to the political discourse, I believe that the discounting of science and the mixed messages that we were getting from Trump, and downplaying the severity of the disease, downplaying the importance of the vaccine, using these things seeming politically, I'm very convinced that killed many people that did not need to die. My grandmother, for example, I think had 7 friends who were all Republicans, who all did not take the vaccine from her church, and they died. Nobody that she know who got the vaccine died.
Hey, your message said. Your message said.
You're muted.
You said no anecdotes.
It's an anecdote for sure. But it's it was that was powerful, and she's not alone in that experience either.
Well, it was dangerous to the elderly.
That was so the COVID response is massive. The economic recovery, we did not have.
You're not a Cuomo fan, are you?
Hard crash. I'm not sure. I wonder if we're hearing each other still.
Sorry,
because I'm not hearing you, Jacob.
Can you hear me now?
But yeah, it was. Are you guys hearing me?
I can hear you.
I'm being heard.
I can hear you.
Some head nods. Okay. Yeah, I'm not hearing you for some reason. I'm not sure. Let's see. Maybe I'm muted. Oh, I'm here. Okay. I don't know what happened here. I must have clicked a button, but I think I'm hearing you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay. Cool. Go on.
Yeah. So everybody was predicting that like we would have like a recession and such, and like we have not had a recession. It's not been. Yeah. I'm not an economic expert either, but we could have had a much harder fall, and I support I support the economic recovery that we have had. And most of it has not. Most of the like inflation that we have had has been driven by corporate profit. That has been the major driver of inflation. Is corporations taking advantage of our capitalist system and not serving the needs of the people and just raking in the money shows that the markets don't really, they're not really affected by the needs of people.
Well, I don't know if I totally agree with that, because I'm definitely a pro-capitalist guy. I think restrictions on big business are somewhat necessary. Like monopolies are a thing.
Yeah, well, if it weren't for
But
restrictions, capitalism would just keep on doing child labor.
right. What was I? Oh yeah, but I feel like all these foreign wars and kind of like all the international stuff going on is
Yeah. That's
really made a huge difference.
I personally, I have very much supported supporting Ukraine. I believe that's important for our domestic security. For
For domestic security?
Yeah, for domestic security, because I mean it's a proxy war. It's like Ukraine is fighting a war for the United States right now,
No.
and if, if they lose it, you know what's happening next. Then Russia is encroaching on NATO, and then NATO gets involved, and now you have World War III, where you have all the countries.
You didn't listen to you didn't listen to Putin on Tucker Carlson, did you?
No, I did not.
You should. You really should.
What did you get out of it?
So he spends like the first the interview is like 3 hours long. He spends the first hour just like railroading through Tucker and explaining Russian history from like 500 AD. And he makes it pretty clear that he's not trying to just he's not on like a war path. He believes that historically Russia has a right to Ukraine and that it's theirs. And I don't believe that if he took Ukraine that he's just gonna keep going and take over the rest of the world. It's kind of like Israel and Palestine. It's like an ancient conflict that has nothing to do with anybody else. And we're just like, oh hey, let's send missiles to the to one of them. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it.
I hate keeping on saying it. I'm not an expert in these areas, and so I don't like talking at very far outside of my knowledge base. From my understanding, Ukraine is a legitimate country, and but even that I can't necessarily speak to it. So if Putin said that it's not, I'm not capable of really defending the point. I don't personally know. But
most Ukrainians speak Russian. Geographically, even just if you looked at a map, you could see how that would be a pretty land dispute. And my thing is okay, Ukraine wants to be independent or whatever. Has nothing to do with me in the world. And it's if you can't defend your own country, you don't deserve to have a country. If we got invaded tomorrow, nobody's coming to help us. That's how the world works. We're civilized now, and we like to act like we're not. That there's that we're different than ancient people, but it's still, the world hasn't changed that much, as far as war and politics and everything goes. If you don't have the resources to defend your own border or to defend from a foreign invasion, that's on you.
It's interesting when we have so much international mingling. It's a completely new world in that regard.
I'm against all of it. I'm not even let's stop sending money to Israel. Let's let Israel figure out what Israel's gonna do. I don't. Yeah, I'm out. I'm out on all of it.
It's it's all been horrible with Israel. The initial thing was horrible with Hamas, 1,200 dead, and now 32,000 Gazans dead. Just leveling whole neighborhoods. This is not right. And I was extremely critical of Biden's just unyielding support for Israel and I am glad to see that he has tapered that back quite a bit. And now the United States is they abstained from the vote, but by abstaining in this UN vote, they have passed a ceasefire resolution that Israel is going to continue to ignore. But the
Well,
U.S.
you can't make you can't make like I'm talking no interference because like okay, whatever way you
It
want to
gets
slice this,
complicated. It gets real complicated,
maybe
though.
even if Israel is the initial aggressor, which I'm not convinced is true, I couldn't tell you. I'm not educated enough on this topic to tell you either way. But if a country in this last little bout that they've had, who kicked it off? It was Hamas. It was coming from Palestine. You
Yeah,
cannot
but
tell a
whoever kicked
nation.
it off, it doesn't. Two wrongs don't make it right.
It doesn't.
You know?
Well, you can't tell a nation that's being attacked to ceasefire because if you talk to Palestinians, they believe that Israel does not exist, that it's theirs.
Well,
It
I
goes both
believe in
ways.
targeted
They're
strikes, though.
they're
Like the
both genocidal as fuck.
bluntness, my God, of the assaults. You know, at leveling whole neighborhoods. You know, whole apartment complexes with people inside them, and they say that they're sending out media and such to get people out of there.
Oh, it's terrible.
32,000 dead. It's just the worst. And
Well,
more children have died in the last well, I mean, this is an old statistic. It was after 3 months of the conflict, from October to no, it's 4 months of the conflict. There were more children that had died in that conflict than the last 4 years of global war conflicts.
Well, and I'm very skeptical
Crazy.
I'm very skeptical of
Yeah, the
media that
numbers.
comes out. A media that comes out on both sides. It's a propaganda war.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but my main like the death of children obviously is the worst thing in the world. Literally, the death of a child. You know, that is the worst thing. You know, let's worry. But I'm more worried about American children. Like it's just like
yeah, that's where your priorities are. I get it.
You know, it's just we have problems at home. We got little kids in Chicago getting shot. We have little kids in Springfield, Missouri getting in trouble. And you know, like it's like there's so much. I actually saw an article today where the guy, I forget his name, but you remember that girl, Kaylee Owens, that got raped and murdered like 5 years ago. She was
Yeah,
she was
in
kind of like
Springfield?
yeah, the guy's lawyer is trying to make a defense to get him off the death sentence to you know, so he doesn't get the death penalty. And this happened like 6 years ago. I'm like, this piece of shit is still alive. Like, why are we spending tax money on this shit? Put a bullet in him and call it a fucking day. Fuck that guy. You know what I mean?
Like, we have differences in our in our strategies to get justice. I believe the justice needs to be served, but I don't necessarily know if killing the guy is the right way to do it. It seems like kind of this.
I mean, if you rape and kill a little girl, you ought to be hung in the public square just to show everybody we don't do that. We're not doing that.
A few issues is when you introduce the amount of error that the justice system causes, how many people the state has executed completely wrongfully. You know, that they thought that they had a good case, but then there's going to be some percentage of people that are legitimately innocent, and then they get executed, and some of them are exonerated posthumously, but many of them aren't. And we don't know how many of them aren't. You know, a lot of their cases just kind of stop. That it's extremely troubling. That part is extremely troubling. And you know, people like being outside of execution halls cheering it on. You know, it's like it's sick to me, in my opinion. I believe in restorative justice. I believe in protecting people as well. You know, that there may need to be like separating people who are dangerous, and I don't know what all the solutions are, but
you're against the death penalty.
I think so. Yeah, I think it has a lot of harm.
It's safe to say that you're pro-choice.
Yeah.
Kind of a contradiction there, don't you think?
Yeah, let me think about that.
I mean, I think like there are obviously errors in the justice system, but obviously when there's someone who is known and is like everybody knows that they raped this girl and everyone knows that he killed her, I think we should probably use the death penalty for that because that's a major crime.
Well,
That's
DNA
well, you can
evidence should be used in like because that's what's exonerated these people that you're talking about, Jake. Is there in the 80s and 90s when we started to get better DNA evidence, they had realized that they had executed some innocent men. So I think that we've kind of crossed that hurdle in a sense where there is like
we might have gotten more. I don't know what the stats are today, but yeah, I could see possibly that we've improved that. There's still some percentage, and even beyond that, society has failed these people. It's these people who are doing these things are messed up in the head for some reason, and our society is really messed up. And in a lot of ways, a lot of times, I would blame the society itself for creating those monsters.
well, if we take personal responsibility away from people, then there's no accountability for anybody. You know that we have to like we have to like conceive that people are in charge of their own decisions. You know,
they are responsible for themselves.
Because that's the difference between somebody who was molested and somebody who's a molester. It's like lots of people are molested and don't molest kids, but most child molesters were molested as a kid. So there's still like a decision. You're still accountable for the actions that you take. And I think a really interesting example you make me think of is recently Joe Rogan. He has a friend who likes to get ex-cons on his show. I forget the fellow's name, but he was on there and he was talking about prison reform and whatnot. And he had a life sentence or like 25 years or something, and he got out. And then a couple weeks after he was on Joe Rogan, this was in the news recently. Leighton, maybe pull up an article about what I'm talking about right here so we can show Jake or something. But Joe Rogan had this ex-con on that a couple weeks later got caught with a body in his freezer, had murdered somebody and cut him up and like put him in his freezer. And he's on the Joe Rogan Experience talking about like restorative justice and prison reform, and you know what I mean?
I mean, here it is right here.
Shocking twist in a murder that stunned a neighborhood in the Bronx.
A man found dismembered inside an apartment. Now today, police arrested a man named Sheldon Johnson. He is a criminal justice activist, and he boasted about turning his life around after getting out of prison as recently as going on shows like the Joe Rogan podcast. Now tonight, he is back in handcuffs, and he's facing murder charges. News 4's Ida Siegel is in Highbridge, where the crime scene investigators are still looking for evidence.
I mean, yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, and this is a philosophical thing that I wonder about a lot. Like nature versus nurture is kind of the idea, right? Where I think you can see in small children, there's like a predisposition hardwired in. You know, whether you think that comes from a creator or like a biological process or whatever, it's like you could see it. Like there's kind of a little personality there. And then that personality develops around like kind of the influence of the mother and the father, the siblings, the home, the church, whatever institutions the family's involved in. But ultimately, I don't know, in society, the culpability has to belong to the individual or you don't have justice, you know, and that's kind of one of the main issues that I see with this administration is the lack of justice. Where like the border issue, for example, I've seen a lot of people on the left disregard it as like RNC propaganda. It's just like the border is intentionally being not secured. Like Biden was gonna he made the National Guard go to Texas to try to stop them from securing some wall. Like he's actively trying to undermine.
That's a particular interpretation of what he was doing. The facts are they sent borders a National Guard there to cut wire fencing.
Yep. That Greg Abbott had put up.
Yes.
You see, he's
To
trying
say
to
that he was
undermine the
doing,
border.
yeah, well, that's saying his intention, which is in court, that's a very difficult thing to demonstrate. The facts are that's what happened. Now to insinuate what needs he was advocating for through that action is a different story. It may have been to support the needs for just humanity, of just recognizing the humanity in these people who are coming from very far away and then getting trapped and cut, and
What they're doing is illegal. Like, it comes back to culpability.
so put up an automatic turret on the border and just shoot everybody automatically.
Let's go. That's what
Like,
I'm
it's the same
talking
logic.
about. Yeah,
That's the same thing.
I want
And-
that.
and-
That would be
Oh.
good. that would be good.
The MAGA laser.
Well, dude,
Yeah.
that's any other border wall. That's literally any other border wall in any other first world nation. It's like, go try to crawl over it and get shot in the face. That's what happens. Like we watched a Channel 4 thing with Andrew Callahan with the border, and well, there's like a river they have to cross, and the border agents are taking their boats out into the middle of the river and saving drowning Mexicans. It's like, I mean, I get it, but it's like at the same time, like I just like,
Yeah, you'd be able to live with yourself if you saw a 12-year-old kid drowning in the river, and then you just don't do anything.
well, let's not even go there. Like, cause like
Just because he's Mexican, it doesn't mean he's, or wherever he's from.
it's not the fact that
They're
he's
all over the
Mexican.
place.
It's the fact that and these people
He's
are
not an
coming
American
over.
citizen.
They're part of the reason they're Democrats are telling them, we'll give you a free phone. We'll give you you're welcome here. We want you here. When the truth is, there's not welcome here, and they're being smuggled by coyotes and being put in these dangerous situations. And then who's made to bail them out? Wing guy that's working the border wall. It's like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. Like, I don't get why we're being soft on criminals illegally crossing the border, and that makes it hard for people to actually become citizens or to immigrate. We're just getting a bunch of garbage because people are being smuggled over, and we're getting their best. When Trump said that, he was absolutely right, because if we were getting their best, we'd be vetting these people and making sure we get the people.
We ought to be vetting them. We have serious document. We have it might not be for the reasons that you think, though. We have serious documentation issues. My understanding is that the backlog of migrants who are trying to get into the U.S., there are people who are just now getting approved who submitted their applications in 2017. They have been waiting and waiting.
Part of the reason they're waiting is because there's no room for them anymore, dude.
The system is broken. When they arrive at the border,
it's intentionally
they cannot start the process until they arrive, until they show up at the border. That is when the process starts. They can't, do it from wherever they were and then go in and submit it. They need to arrive here. And then what are they going to do? So they show up at the border and then they wait for 7 years. And I mean, I don't know, but I mean, if you're in certain desperate situations, you do things for your family, and I can empathize with their position.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but also that's not how that's not how your society has a future, is by being overly compassionate and being and also,
well, I want to improve our vetting process so that then we're not, just being compassionate blindly. We can vet these people. We can move them through the process and deny them quickly too. That way, they're done with it, and we can stop them from having these massive lines and buildups and people trying to sneak in and stuff. If we improve the systems,
did you see that that video of border agents being overrun at the border that came out a week ago?
I think I saw a thumbnail, but I didn't see it. I didn't see the clip.
They literally have rifles drawn on them, and
Well,
they don't fire a single round. It's just like we're not even trying.
oh, sorry,
to,
they the migrants or the
no,
border
no,
patrol
the
have
border agents. Yeah, none of
Okay.
the migrants have weapons. It doesn't appear.
Okay.
But it's just like, of course they don't take you seriously because you're not a real army man. You're not really doing your job. You're just letting them, like, we don't even take ourselves seriously as a country. We're just like, oh, poor Mexicans, let them just like run through the National Guard.
looks kind of like January 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly peaceful.
Well, yeah. What should we have done with them? Should we have rifles drawn
We
and just
should
shot all
let
them?
No, but they're American citizens. These Mexicans are not.
I think there were two people at January 6th. There were ones that, were violent and probably should be prosecuted. And then there were ones that were just there protesting. Like everyone that went to January 6th wasn't just there to attack the Capitol. Most of the people there were there just to protest because it was a giant protest that was happening.
Well, and the only person who was killed was Ashley Babbitt, who was, and we've talked about
Correct.
this on the show before. The cop that killed Ashley Babbitt got patted on the back and called a hero for shooting an unarmed woman. Like, that's the hypocrisy of our justice system. If it was a white woman shooting an unarmed black man, she'd be in prison for the next fucking foreseeable 40 years.
Yeah,
it's like the identity politics and everything is slipped into the justice system. It's okay to kill Ashley Babbitt because she's just a Karen, but you shoot some 20-year-old black man that's trying to take your gun, Michael Brown. We're gonna burn down a whole city, and we're gonna.
Do you recognize the need to protect the senators?
For sure.
So how is that officer? He's about as far back as he can be. We got a person breaking into a window, climbing through it, and now, how are you supposed to protect the senators at that point?
I feel like if you're at the Capitol, you should have enough training to be able to identify legitimate threats and non-legitimate threats. What is that woman going to do when you couldn't restrain her? You couldn't, like, he's not the only cop there.
Just don't know. It's I believe that the Capitol probably has some very strict security clearance for entry, and he has no way of knowing if she's armed or not. And plenty of people were armed inside the Capitol.
I haven't seen any footage of that.
I hear you on that.
Let's see.
I hear you on that, but if it had such tight security, then how did they get through?
Well, they eventually let them through. Like that clip.
That's another
like
question.
that clip that you just showed of people rushing. They could have just shot everybody, and then sure, nobody would have gotten through. But I don't think that would have been a more positive result. How did they get through? They let them through, and partly, they were also overrun. But the only way that they could have stopped the overrun is to use just extreme violence.
The Capitol is our building. That's our federal taxes go to that building.
Yeah, so is like Area 51, and like they're restricted areas that like you're just not allowed.
Yeah, but
you do not accept that.
I do, but I feel like I don't know. It's so interesting to talk to Democrats about this issue because, most will condone so much rioting through the Black Lives Matter era and during COVID, and overlook all of that, and like overlook burnt down police stations and tons of dead black people in Chicago, more than typical. But then when it comes to patriots, sorry, I just got a call. When it comes to patriots airing a legitimate grievance that they have directed at the place that they have the grievance, and they don't actually burn anything.
It's not the grievance that's the issue, though. It's the act of breaking and entering and disrupting, official proceedings.
And with the January 6th riot, do you feel like maybe there was a little bit of federal influence into the riot?
Well, Ray Epps was there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there might have been a little bit of a federal push to it.
No, I'm not aware of any
I
evidence.
know
to
that's
support
a
federal
little bit
influence.
conspiratorial, but I mean,
It's really not. I mean, you haven't heard of Ray
there were
Epps?
a few glowies there,
Well, I think by definition it is conspiratorial.
and they just let them in too.
The word conspiracy was coined by conspiracy theorists to keep people from having independent thought. Supposedly, it was coined by this one of these like 3-letter intelligence organizations, conspiracy theory, like that term.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I don't know how legitimate that is. I do absolutely recognize that there are very real conspiracies out there that have occurred. The United
Well,
States
dude,
has propagated certain ones.
Are you aware of this? This is one of my favorites because Alex Jones got turned into a meme for being like, they're turning the freaking frogs gay. But then it came out that there was a chemical in the water called atrazine that was making frogs change sexes.
Huh.
Did you catch?
Yeah, I think I heard that.
Yeah, like that kind of shit is like that's not a conspiracy theory, and it's like he says stuff in a hyperbolic way, but it's like that
I think that you're correct. It would be a conspiracy theory if we were saying that this government organization was purposely putting these chemicals in order to have this effect. That would be conspiratorial, but just the fact of there being this chemical in the water doesn't imply a conspiracy necessarily.
Right. Yeah. What is it? Correlation is not causation or whatever. Fuck, man. We've hit a lot of topics.
Yeah, sure have.
All those frogs got that fluoride stare.
Oh, hey, here's another great reason that I am in support of Biden. This right here is.
He just holds up a swastika.
That right there, if you look at the highlight, it says $473.99.
What is that?
That is a prescription for this inhaler right here that I need very much. The Biden administration has worked with, has negotiated through Medicaid and through I forget what those negotiations were. It was with inhalers and also insulin, and been able to drop that $474 price tag down to $35. And that's one thing that Trump would do is remove the Affordable Care Act and remove those provisions and dramatically increase the prices of insulin and inhalers, which I personally benefit from the inhaler part. And that is, that affects a lot of people. Oh yeah. And another big thing was attempting to dismantle the Affordable Care Act during a global health pandemic. Seemed a bit counterproductive.
Well, that's one of those, like, that makes me, you remember when Martin Shkreli, he bought the rights to like some kind of like insulin for diabetics and like made it super expensive. Yeah, that is kind of a weird issue. I don't even remember how that got resolved. Like, cause I think that happened happened and was kind of resolved during the Trump administration, but
whoever that comment was, I'm the lower class. Hello.
You're in good company, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for helping me breathe.
This is like the longest episode we've done in a long time, man. I really, really, really have enjoyed this conversation and appreciate the back and forth. And I don't necessarily want to end it yet because there was
we got a few news that came out recently.
We do. We have a few things that we want to get to. If you're chilling and you want to hang out,
I'm chilling. I'm good.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. We'll kind of keep it rolling because there is just like a few like news topics and like bookkeeping things that I do want to get into this episode before we call it quits here.
Did you hear about the Baltimore Bridge?
I did.
Yeah, I've been keeping up on that.
A cargo boat piloted by a crew of Indians, lost power, and then crashed in like the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. And I have some video of it if any of you guys haven't seen it. There were several responses to it. I heard from different sources that some people died or there were cars underwater, but then I've heard from other sources.
Six. There's six people who were, they have not been recovered and they are assumed dead. They were construction workers that were working on the bridge at night. It's 1:30 at night. And they were working on the bridge.
Loss.
Yeah. Wow. I'm surprised you can see the cars there. So around this point here that the ship, the Dolly is the name of the ship. It put out a Mayday call and they blocked. They said block all the traffic off this bridge. We don't know where this boat's going. We've lost power. So they put the Mayday call out. You're going to see the traffic stop at some point. And
right there, I think. Oh, damn.
Yeah. So, and there's still the workers on the bridge. They're the only. I think that they're the only fatalities. And then there was one other person who's critically injured right now. Overall, the human fatality has been very low, but this is a very, very, very significant issue. The port that you're looking at, those lights just behind, that is one of the largest ports in probably the United States. It is a very, very important port, and that bridge collapsing has completely blocked off the port traffic from exiting. There's one little area, I guess, that like they can kind of slip some like light cargo out. They're not completely trapped, but I mean that port's like done right now, and they can't even move ships. The ships they're trapped in there, and yeah, it's just massive. It's gonna there's 30,000 cars that traveled that bridge to commute every day. So now they've all got to reroute. I've heard that it's going to directly impact 8,000 jobs in the area. It's going to affect traffic all up and down the East Coast. And it's going to directly affect the economy because the economy will be less productive because we have this massive port that's no longer exporting or importing. And that was a major port for cars and also farm equipment. I don't recall if it's receiving or sending, but it's going to affect a lot of things. And it's going to be a long-term thing too. That bridge took 5 years to build, and it will. Don't know how long it'll take to rebuild it. It might take as long. It might take less long. It might take longer. But it'll be a long reconstruction process. Big deal stuff.
I wouldn't imagine anyone being able to survive that collapse.
It's amazing that the casualties were so low and that they were able to get that SOS call out. I didn't know. Yeah,
those like it was. All things considered, like about as ideal as it could have been, considering like the human fatalities. Like it was at 1:30 at night, so like traffic was already pretty low. Mayday call, and those fatalities are absolutely horrific. But it could have been a lot worse.
So I also have the Maryland mayor, not the Maryland mayor, the Baltimore mayor. Here is his response. This is super short.
Oh, I haven't seen this.
This is a unthinkable tragedy. We have to first and foremost pray for all of those who are impacted, those families. Pray for our first responders and thank them, all of them working together, city, state, local, to make sure that everyone.
I don't know why it cuts off like that, but at some point in this interview, they ask, when do you expect the bridge to be rebuilt? And he goes on to say, I don't think we should be thinking about that right now. You know, I mean, obviously we'll build it at the time that we have.
They can't know. They might be able to get some estimates.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty inappropriate.
He looks.
They got cleanup to do. They have to they don't know how much of the original structure is still stable, like the underwater structures. They just don't know. It'll take a while to even figure out what the timeline looks like.
I have a couple of impressions of that, and that Baltimore mayor kind of looks like a Justin Trudeau situation. Like he's too young and too handsome to be in a position of power. Like I feel like he probably got elected because he's like good looking and charming or something, not because he's qualified to be the mayor. Also, I was like pretty convinced that this was just like a freak accident, but now getting more details from you, Jake, about like how major of a port it was, I'm like, makes me a little bit more conspiratorial about it, where it seems like that would be pretty good way to sabotage the economy even further.
Yeah, well, this happens. I mean, I can pre-bunk pretty much any. I mean, you know, you got a tragedy, whatever. You'll have a tragedy that happens in 5 months, and people will make conspiracy theories about it. I don't know what the tragedy is going to be, but whatever tragedy it is, people will wrap whatever their preferred brand of conspiratorial narrative is, and they will apply it to it. And they'll find reasons that you know become very convincing, but that doesn't mean it's true just because
I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm not. It's just I didn't realize it was such a consequential port. That kind of I see why some people are just jumping to conspiracy theories, even though I think that's like especially with like shootings, the right and the left both do it now, where they're just like, this is my political argument, like this is my. You know, and it's like everybody's just standing on the graves of dead kids. Like, no, you're wrong. You know, it's just like, can we not just like mourn a tragedy as a country and not use it as political fodder?
Actually, President Joe Biden.
So a year ago today was a mass shooting in Nashville, I think.
Was that the one with the trans shooter?
Maybe.
Yeah, Nashville shooting was the trans shooter.
Yeah, the
Christian church school.
Yeah, it was like a Christian elementary
Covenant
school.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been screaming for the manifesto from that.
We got a bits and pieces of it from Steven Crowder.
Yeah, supposedly. I never really looked into that too much.
If you were wondering, yes, Biden did give a response to the bridge collapse. Here is his response to it.
No other reason to believe there's any intentional act here. Personnel on board the ship were able to alert the Maryland Department of Transportation that they had lost control of their vessel, as you all know and reported. As a result, local authorities were able to close the bridge to traffic before the bridge was struck, which undoubtedly saved lives. And our prayers are with everyone involved in this terrible accident and all the families, especially those waiting for the news of their loved one right now. I know every minute patient, no other.
Yeah.
All those are cut weird.
It is all cut weird, but all this reminds me of this one video that is old on YouTube. Here, let's play it.
Fuck you, Baltimore!
If you're dumb enough to buy a new car this weekend,
you're a big enough schmuck to come to Big Bill Hell's Cars.
Bad deal.
Cars that break down.
Thieves.
If you think you're gonna find a bargain at Big Bill,
you can kiss my ass.
It's our belief that you're such a stupid motherfucker.
You'll fall for this bullshit.
Guaranteed.
If you find a better deal.
Oh, that's enough of that.
What the fuck? That made you think of that?
Yeah, because he says "fuck you, Baltimore" in the beginning. Did you?
Oh, that's terrible. That there is terrible.
Hey, if you want to see somebody smart, check out Pete Buttigieg. If he were running instead of Biden, I would definitely vote for him. He's the secretary.
Shut up, bro! You're killing me.
Dude,
he's
about the smartest guy. He's so good to listen to. Check out his response. Check out his response on the Baltimore bridge collapse and tell me that he's an idiot or whatever.
Have you seen his husband pledging the allegiance to the gay flag?
No, Leighton,
No,
be charitable. Let's see his response to the Baltimore thing. I'm curious. I do not have a high opinion of Pete Buttigieg. Put it that way.
Baltimore. I don't know why
he took maternity leave for like 3 months and nobody even knew that he was gone. Well,
maternity leave. That's for pregnant people, right?
Well, it was paternity leave. I'm
Oh,
sorry. Yeah. Because him and his gay husband like adopted or had in vitro fertilization or like it's like you don't get a paternity like 3 months of paternity leave. I don't. And then he was the one in charge.
I think everybody, men and women ought to get that. That's some important time.
He was the one in charge when that train derailed and like poisoned that town. And the response was
he didn't
slow.
like do that. Yeah, he was in charge.
Well, no, of course, but he was in charge of the response.
He orchestrated it,
which was other shit. The response was terrible.
I think it's pretty obvious that Pete Buttigieg personally placed a rock down on the railroad.
Shut the fuck up.
But I had that video you were talking about right here, his response to the
Okay.
bridge collapse at the White House press meeting.
Our hearts go out to the families of the 6
Let's skip
individuals.
ahead a little bit. This is like an hour long, but we'll
damn.
go over down to Pete Buttigieg's bit. Buttigieg.
From the very
Easy.
has been acting to make sure that we have a whole of government response to support the people of Baltimore. Yesterday, America awoke to shocking images.
When I heard this, I'm just like, they've got this taken care of.
By a Neo-Panamax container
I mean, he's a
vessel.
good speaker.
By the time most Americans saw those images, first responders and rescuers had already been at work.
You really
for
want to
hours
tell he's
to
gay.
save lives. That quick work unquestionably made an enormous difference. And they have.
Yes, you can.
He doesn't have like the voice. Like
efforts, the Mayday call, the maintenance closure that was already underway, and the time of day of this impact. The loss of life might have been in the dozens. But tragically, 6 people did lose their lives, and a 7th was badly injured. These were workers who went out to work on a night shift, repairing the road surface while most of us slept. Work is undergoing to recover their remains, and
I mean, he's not even trying to act like he's not reading a script, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he's
He's
reading
reading
it
his
fine.
script.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, anybody can do that. You could do that. Yeah, I mean, that's not impressive.
he's definitely.
I mean,
holding
consistently,
back.
consistently, I've really appreciated, you know, when there are tragedies, I felt very comforted by what he said, and the organization, you know, it seems like he really has had a grasp on these situations, and the situations themselves are outside of the control of you know, well, I mean, somebody's under control of a lot of them, but the response is what, you know, what is in his control, and I've supported many of the response efforts. There was like that bridge that got blown up. It was it was a very significant one. I think it was in Pennsylvania. Got blown up.
That.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was like I don't remember how that happened. I know the driver of the truck died, and it might have been like a gas tanker that exploded under this very significant bridge.
I didn't know it was an explosion. I thought it just like collapsed.
Yeah, it was just massive, and the response on that, it could have been much worse, you know, the cleanup effort, but I mean, it got back up very quickly, and I'm just like when I hear that train disaster, I'm not exactly sure the follow up on how that went down. I'd be very curious to learn more.
You know, I promise you, Biden or Kamala Harris will be out at Baltimore, like at least like doing like at least getting the optics of them caring. But it took a really, really long time.
Well, Biden's putting the money where his mouth is. You know, $400 billion in infrastructure and a bipartisan package. How is
that helping us? Like me and you.
Well, it's
like, where does that $400 billion go?
It's spread out. It's distributed among or about 330 million people. So you get what would that be? $100 of it, I think, if my math is right. About a little bit more than $100 of value out of it directly.
Well, like, where is the fruits? Like, because okay, we're not going to see any significant change in the city of Springfield, Missouri, because of that.
We might actually.
I'd be curious. I would be very curious about that, you know, because like even in major cities, it doesn't seem like they're using, like that they're taking care of pretty simple issues that they're having.
Yeah, I'm seeing if I can come up with any data on, you know, where that money has gone, because I don't actually know, but it has been used.
When you say infrastructure, I assume like, you know, like roads, telephone lights, like electrical, like, you know, but
rural internet.
It's so vague. It's just,
that is a good question though, because I mean, we hear all the time from the news like these new policies and stuff that are going to use this so and so amount of money, but you don't really know exactly what that money is being used for. Like they don't ever kind of go into specifics of this certain amount of money is going to be allocated to this specific portion of the project. And yeah, that is a very good question, though.
Yeah, the how the breakdown of how the money is being used. You know, I don't know it off the top of my head, right? But you know, you can just look that up. Let's see. I'll come up with a source.
It's
here.
just it's so much money, man. Like it's like we should really be able to see something consequential that's positive come from that. But you know, without knowing too much about it, my instinct is that that's just going to line the pockets of like corrupt politicians. You know, like I don't feel like we're going to see much from that. Maybe I'm totally off base with that, but
I'm checking out some sources, seeing what I can come up with.
But yeah, I mean, whenever it comes to that money kind of stuff, it definitely can be abused, especially with those policy kind of things, because it's pretty easy to cover up what you're spending your money on.
Right.
I mean,
oh yeah,
you can say it's being put towards this and say it in such a vague way. And yes, you are putting it towards that in a way, but there are ways to manipulate the system in order to that money to also go to something else.
Yeah, we need transparency and accountability to ensure the money's being appropriately used.
I mean, I agree. I think we need
Preach.
from the government.
Absolutely. Have you found anything you want to share there, Jake?
Yeah, well, I found I'll drop this in here. Maybe you can find something with that. I was hoping for a source not directly from the White House, but this does outline does outline where the money's going. It's not the easiest thing to read.
Can we take a gander at that, Leighton?
Yeah,
I'm seeing over 300 billion is invested in repairing and rebuilding America's roads. 7,800 bridges.
Vehicle charging, EV batteries, and critical materials.
Oh, that's just I would not support that part of the bill.
Check out the section historic progress by the numbers. It's just a little bit scrolled down on the page from the top.
High-speed internet.
Started improvements on 135,800 miles of roads and launched over 7,800 bridge repair projects, increasing safety and reconnecting.
And what's this bill for? This is
it's an infrastructure. It's a bipartisan infrastructure act.
Oh, that was the big infrastructure bill they were trying to get passed a while ago.
Well, it did.
I mean, a lot of this is good stuff, like roads and bridges and stuff. But a lot of it, you know, if you look through this, a lot of it is fluff. Like, let's see.
Well, of the $400 billion, 300 billion of it is going to roads and bridges. So that's 3/4 of it.
Yeah. Electrical vehicle charging, I don't know about.
Well, check out just how much that ratio is, though. I've gotten $66 billion in rail investment, which, by the way, every other major country is just dominating our rail. Our rail is embarrassing. I want to be able to take a train up to Milwaukee or anywhere else in the country, and I can't. Gotta go to St. Louis or some other hookup. It's impossible. And so we're investing in that. And actually, there's a hookup that's going to go, I think, through Oklahoma City and Springfield. I'm not certain, but that's what's being projected. So that would be an effect for you. You might have access to a train as a result of this bill.
I wouldn't hate that. As long that's kind of what I was asking. Is just like, is there anything I could put my hands on from this? Because it's like, I'm so hesitant to like this government spending when it just seems like they can't get anything done to begin with. Like all this like federal legislation. It almost would be better just to like leave it to states to sort out.
I mean, a lot of this I feel like is kind of like state issues because MoDOT, they take care of our roads. I mean,
that's true. That's a good point.
We've got several projects coming up, especially around here in Seymour. We have a new overpass being built. You got the construction over in Rogersville. I mean, it's obvious that there is construction going on. But it's
so that's probably some of that money
being managed from a federal level. It's being managed from a state level.
I wonder how that feeds down. I'm a little ignorant about this stuff. So maybe the federal government being able to allocate like a grant like that so that like the state like MoDOT could use it. I'm not sure exactly how that works, Leighton. That's very interesting. You've made the hamster and
I'm sure a lot of that federal money goes towards MoDOT, and that's probably why all these projects are being considered as of recently, is because of the infrastructure bill. But I'm not entirely sure. It's just all this construction stuff just popped up out of nowhere.
right. Well, there's that big, is it Grant? They're making that walkway to Bass Pro, but that's like a Johnny Morris thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Here's the railway you were talking about, Jake. You sent that earlier.
Yeah.
The Federal Railroad Administration has unveiled its proposed network of Amtrak long distance routes. Like, I agree, this would be a cool idea. I would like to take a fucking train to wherever, and
wherever you're tuning in from, look at where your nearest connection is there. It'll be closer than it was before, probably.
It'd be coming in through Springfield, and
that's crazy.
I would like that. I would like to see.
I'm not against that at all.
But I mean, is it going to get built? Like, I mean, that's the.
Yeah, it's proposed. Yeah.
I would like to see the border secured first, personally.
I would like to see the border secured first before we let this little section be built, so we don't have people hopping on the train and running down over to New York or Washington D.C. and.
Oh man,
I do think that is a really good idea. I don't really agree with a lot of liberal politics and ideas, but that is a really good idea.
It's infrastructure. It's a unifying thing. Everybody uses it.
I put a link in that in the private chat, Leighton, kind of about that Christ is King thing I was talking about earlier. So we covered last episode how the Daily Wire, Candace Owens got fired from the Daily Wire for criticizing Israel, essentially, and getting on Ben Shapiro's bad side. So this has started like a whole conversation about, like, on Twitter with right-wing influencers. So a lot of people, like Andrew Klavan at the Daily Wire, came out and he said that he thought Christ is King, like, as like a sentiment like that was like a anti-Semitic dog whistle. And he's a right-winger who is a Christian, so he believes that Christ is King. But he was saying that this kind of trope that's going around right now, and I tend to err on the side of, like, if you're upset about a statement such as Christ is King, cope and seethe. But I saw some influencers who are Christian make a very compelling point about this that I kind of wanted to share. So if you'll pull that video up.
I learned about this from Reddit Lies, the Twitter account. They were posting about how, like, saying Christ is King is not a Christian thing to do. And it's like, I mean, who cares about what, like, if Jews are offended by you saying Christ is King, then that's just them.
Well, and so play the first part of this video, Leighton.
Yeah.
Been fuming over a couple of tweets made by Andrew Tate and Sneeko, both tweets saying that Christ is King. But
pause it real quick.
Sneeko is a Muslim.
Exactly, bro. Exactly. Why are they saying Christ is King?
Because Sneeko is a fucking egomaniac, and
well, because they're trying to piss off the Jews. I mean, that's what Andrew Tate and Sneeko are doing with this. So, and they're Muslims, and they're pissing off their Muslim fans as well. So, scroll on the video and find the part where he's talking to another guy. Farther. Go back a little bit. Like right there, yeah.
Yo, D-Dub, what up, bro?
Yeah.
Hey, real quick. I was on Twitter and I saw Sneeko and Andrew Tate both posting Christ is King at the same time. And there was a lot of weird things that seemed to be going on. So I was kind of wondering if you knew why they were posting that, because it looked a little suspicious to me.
Brilliant strategy, but evil. This parallel I can think of to how this is being used is Black Lives Matter. So the founders of Black Lives Matter were admitted Marxists. They were a group of trained Marxists who were trained to sell Marxism wouldn't work well for a Western audience. But if you use a slogan, Black Lives Matter, which no one can object to, as a shield, you can block criticisms of your actual agenda. You have white supremacists doing the exact same thing right now. They're using Christ is King as a shield, so that when you object to what they're saying, they say, "Oh, you're objecting to me because I'm saying Christ is King." The person I saw who was really kicking this off was Nick Fuentes. He has a group called the Groypers, and so they're these so they're constantly blasting Jews and trying to encourage hostility against Jews. And they want a white Christian nation. That's what they want. So what these guys started doing is running around like harassing Jews. You filthy Jew, you filthy Zionist pig! Christ is King! Christ is King! Christ is King! And they just kept bombarding with that. And then when someone would respond, I go, "Oh, look, see, they hate Christ. All we're doing is saying Christ is King. What's wrong with that? See how angry they get when we say Christ is King." Lots of people falling for this because they see people warning them, saying, "Hey guys, be careful of this Christ is King stuff. You don't realize what this is being used for right now." And people are like, "What? You're not going to get me to not say Christ is King? No, Christ is King." And meanwhile, you've got neo-Nazis giggling themselves silly that people are actually falling for this. So
okay, so
I think that's a very like salient point, and it's like I kind of hate to criticize this in a way, but I see what's going on here because there's a commentator called Mark Dice, and he's playing into this, and he's like, he's made like his discount code Christ is King now, and I like Mark Dice. I think he's a good political commentator, but I think David Wood's comparison between BLM and this like Christ is King movement, where you can't Black Lives Matter, that is a sentiment, is true. Christ is King, that is a sentiment, is true. But then people like co-opting it, people who don't even believe that and using it as a shield from criticism. I thought that was a really interesting perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, it is really weird. Wasn't there allegations that Sneeko was a cuck?
Yeah, Sneeko watched one of his girlfriends get fucked by another guy. He is a cuck. But
oh jeez.
Yeah. if you're the right wing,
he also like changes his religion all the time too. Like he goes from being a Muslim to being a Christian to being all,
He's a clout chaser, bro. I mean, he's whatever's trendy in the right wing manosphere. That's what Sneeko's doing. That's why he's a Muslim. He's an Andrew Tate acolyte. I mean,
speaking of clout chasing streamers, did you see that Hassan Piker had a mental breakdown on his Discord?
No.
Yeah.
Wait. I think you did send the screenshot.
He said in his Discord server. Okay, let's read this out. "I'm so sad. I think the streams are bangers, but people just don't see them." Yeah, not so much. "We used to be a community. I hate what my community is becoming. I swear Twitch streaming isn't about the actual content. It's about whether people want to pay attention to you or not, and clout. All that shit was a banger and 13K watch, like I'm fucking gaming at 8 p.m. I'm done. I hate this job. I'm not streaming today. I'm going to kill myself."
Well, is this real? Like, have you verified that at all?
Yeah.
Because was he upset because in his Discord they were doing the Pepe React?
No, that it's a common thing in his chat. I mean, I
thought that was a Groyper thing. I thought Pepe was a Groyper thing.
If it's any evidence though, don't you think that like here's a video of him having a mental breakdown over someone making him into a soy jack?
Like this is Shaniqua posting delusions, which is a straight up white supremacist account. No, you can't tell Somali nationalists to go back to Somalia. 9,000 likes.
Are you familiar with Hassan Piker much, Jake?
No, this is my first time seeing him.
What are we doing?
Oh, really? Okay. You're better off for that.
Calamity, brother.
He's a piece of shit.
Now, my point was this.
Like, I mean, he's a piece of shit because he says that he's like a socialist and eat the rich and all that, but
right.
He owns a mansion, right? Like he makes thousands of dollars off of this. If he was all for eat the rich, then why would he why would he like own a
Contribute to the
Why would-
capitalist empire that's oppressing everybody? Like-
Yeah, I mean, he's just a sham. He's an idiot. I hope he quits streaming. I think the world of streaming will be better off without him. I hope he doesn't kill himself, but I mean, I'm sure he's just having a fucking mental breakdown right now.
I think what would help with his mental health a lot is if he had a creator clash with Sam Hyde. That'd probably
Yeah. Speaking of Sam Hyde, World Peace 2, I think it's coming real close to being revealed. Alex Schultz, one of the producers for it, posted this on Twitter, and then Sam Hyde gave us a special little sneak peek at World Peace 2.
Bad news. The votes.
Nice headphones.
What do they say?
They're in.
Okay, and?
Bad news. The votes.
The votes what?
They're in.
Well, what do they say?
You won't like it. Chat's in a state. Bad news.
But I feel like it's coming out real soon. I'm super excited. I would say probably within a month or so, just given by the wording. But this has been a project that's been working on a while. I was watching World Peace 2 behind the scenes stuff yesterday, and it was really freaking cool.
Are you familiar with Sam Hyde at all, Jake?
No, I don't think so.
No, he had a show on Adult Swim, and he got canceled by like some other, like he was really influenced by Tim Heidecker's show. What was it called, Leighton?
Tim and Eric, awesome show, something like that.
Oh, okay. Then I'm a bit familiar, apparently, if he was involved in that.
Well, Sam Hyde was inspired by Tim and Eric, awesome show. He got a show on Adult Swim, and it had a similar style. And Eric Heidecker was convinced by another creator at Adult Swim to kind of talk to like the producers and like say that he was like racist or something. So he got his show taken down for like white supremacist dog whistling, something crazy like that. So there's like a whole like internet. There's a ton of lore behind like $1 Million Extreme was his show on Adult Swim.
That was his that $1 Million Extreme is his comedy troupe. World Peace was his show.
That's right. Sorry. And so now they're releasing World Peace 2 as like an independent thing, separate
which I'm super excited for. Like it looks freaking amazing just watching it. They had one bit. One of the sketches is going to be called America's Next Top Daddy Dom. But it's all looking really good so far. I mean, I'm excited to watch it. Maybe we'll do a live viewing or something.
Sam Hyde helped Red Pill, my Zoomer producer here, Jake. He was not that long ago. He hated my guts because of my Pride coverage. And then he sent me a message just shortly before I started this show and was kind of like, I had like a come to Jesus, I guess you could call it. And that's kind of how he ended up on the show with me too. Was him reaching out. So he could just be like an undercover operative trying to make me look bad. I'm still not sure, but he helps with the show a lot. So we let him hang around.
Yeah. Actually, let's show him a little bit of Sam Hyde first. Since Jake has never seen him before, he's a huge inspiration behind my like comedy style and all that.
It's pretty hit or miss, man.
It was
silly. Get this
fucking hot. You're gonna blow your load right away. Okay? You guys are desensitized.
The context behind this is him talking about
Pinkie Pie, get railed,
his Kickstarter that he made
it
for
takes
a
you longer to
brony
jerk off,
dating
and you're not as
simulator.
hard, and your orgasms aren't as explosive because your dopamine receptors are all numb. Trust me, when you fire this game up, your little fucking nuts are gonna start quaking, buddy. Your little nuts are gonna be quaking.
Here, that's enough of that, Leighton. That's enough.
Yeah.
You're gonna scare Jake off.
Sam's a pretty awesome guy, though. He's
very transgressive. That's like his whole bit.
I got a little bit of a Twitter drama recently.
Oh, do you want to talk about that?
I mean, sure. I was going to talk about Sunday more in depth, but I'll go ahead and give the cliff notes of it. there's this guy I'm friends with on a Telegram. His name's Storm, and there's this controversial figure within the furry fandom. Her name is like Fiona, and she has like this horse costume. I'm not going to show it on stream, but she has this.
You should show it. I mean, it's not like you can see anything. Like,
yeah, I should. And
you
it's
should.
not like, I got to be really careful of this because it's a not safe for work account. But basically, she has this big tittied horse character.
Just show your Twitter feed, because your Twitter feed is like not gonna get us completely shut down. Like, okay, here's the picture. That's the clip you made that went viral. Play the.
Yeah. Well, what first went viral was that I noticed that she blocked me for no reason, just because I was following Storm, because Storm said that it's like a bad thing to let people have sex in public, and she was obviously against that. And I said she's so retarded, crying emoji, and like this shit fucking got to 38,000 like eyes out there.
Gosh.
That's crazy, man.
And
like, I've never had it.
People in here have been fighting and stuff.
The furries on Twitter are super active, apparently. Like, I've never had a viral moment on Twitter.
And then I said, looks like Fiona's ahead for a busy night. She's blocking all of Storm's 800 plus followers. And I got a little schizo, and I said, the last pic is horrifying. If I had to look at this dumb, ugly bitch's face for more than a minute, then I would go insane. Around minute 5, I'd probably start smashing in this tile floor, horse teeth in, and yank out her hair and earrings. All hypothetically speaking, by the way, I wouldn't do this IRL.
Disavow.
Yeah, disavow. I had to disavow at the end so Twitter wouldn't ban me. And then she started dissing on another one of my friends. I was on his podcast a while ago. Go check him out.
Yeah, I saw that you were on another podcast. I'm afraid to listen to it.
And he said that she was a fucking creep, and her mob of orbiters. She has like this mob of people that follow her like fucking Taylor Swifties. And she said, how'd your dumbass podcast go, bro? And I responded with, at least Higher Mammal is actually doing something productive instead of being a fat bitch that shakes her fursuit tits at family-friendly pride events.
Well said.
Then I posted a picture of my ultra pink burger. People didn't like that one. And then I posted this.
This one was my favorite. This was my favorite.
This is my favorite too. I really wish this one got to 38,000 eyes, but it didn't.
Get that ugly, disabled freak away from me. I don't want to look at his fucked up face. His smushed in, garbled, baby disabled face. I don't want to look at it.
And listen, I don't hate like Fiona. I'm not the kind of person to be like, to like hate someone for no reason. Like, obviously I don't like her for things that she's done. Like she has this thing where she sends people like her orbiters and followers and shit to go attack people. And I've seen it in my comments. I pretty much just ignored it, but I mean, it's just like really something that I'm just kind of fucking around with. Like I don't mean anything by anything I say. Right. So when I say I'm going to smash in her horse teeth, I don't actually mean it, guys.
Well, and it is a costume, to be fair. Like he doesn't have horse teeth. Like,
actually, the original post I was making fun of was she said, I invite pearl clutchers to pay for the exorbitant fabric and tailoring costs of the full body outfits for my suit. I'll wear whatever nun or a handmade outfit you come up with. Until then, the skimpy outfits stay. It's like, what kind of fucking argument is that? You're arguing that you're going to dress as a slut because it costs too much to tailor the outfits for your suit, and you're expecting people to pay for it. Like, I think that's mostly a joke, though. But I mean, still,
sure.
I'm going to make fun of it because I think it's funny.
No, it's just bizarre to me that that you were able to go viral with that in a little way. And like, I've never gone viral on Twitter. So I mean, I imagine it's pretty fun.
It's fun to ride it. Just like that whole, like the last 2 days, I've just been riding the wave and just like making my schizo post. So
Well,
then
I
people-
warned you in private, and I'll warn you in public too. You know, I used to get a big kick out of like, because I know that person made a post about you, and like, like the hate, like I used to get a high from like trolling Johan and him like posting about me and me having like a bunch of haters come and interact with my shit. You know, but that could only take you so far. Like there is a come down from that sort of thing, and it's. I guess some people have made it a sustainable business model, you know, like any attention is good attention or whatever. Like Kanye is just, you know, he's just the controversy machine. Like that's how he stays relevant, is by being controversial.
Yeah, that's not the thing I want to do though. I don't want my only thing.
Well, I didn't assume so, you know, so just.
Well, on that topic, I was I wanted to mention that in that video with the tits and the guy with the big face right next to it, when you clip that together, he had used the word disabled in a derogatory way, you know,
that's
as an insult.
I
And
understand where you're coming-
I personally feel uncomfortable with that.
I
You know,
understand where you're
I value
coming
more respect for those folks. I'm wondering where you're coming from using that.
If it makes you feel any better, that's Sam Hyde. You know, that's
Well,
his-
you put the clip together,
it's
though,
weird,
right?
It's edgy, it's edgy. I don't actually mean this.
It's transgressive for the sake of being transgressive. I think so that original clip, he's talking about that little short influencer that everybody was hanging out. Hezbollah. And Sam Hyde's always like saying that he's gonna like come to somebody's house and like with Hassan Piker, like he's always like transgressing and crossing boundaries you're not supposed to. And for example, I think there is some comedic value with like playing with the semantics of disabled and like handicap. For example, there's a really good Norm Macdonald bit where in order to be politically correct, instead of saying somebody that he dislikes is retarded, he says that they have Down syndrome, which subverts kind of the political correctness and makes it more wrong. But he's playing like a character that's ignorant, that's trying to be politically correct. So it's like, it's subversive, you know? So is it in bad taste? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But should comedy be censored? Not in my opinion.
I worry about the effect on people. You know, like it exacerbates certain stereotypes and like these people, they probably don't feel good about, you know, maybe having mental handicap.
I'm not saying I hate disabled people like that.
Well, and the truth of the matter is, if you wander around in a horse suit with fake tits and that's like your identity, you're probably mentally ill.
Well, you can call her horseface, you know.
Well, I don't think she's mentally ill in the way you think. I think she has a narcissistic personality and an oversized ego. If she's like, have you seen like the way things she tweets? Like she tweeted this, responding to me. I'm using an alt account, guys, so don't tell her or she'll block me. Bro, imagine trying to say that while using Sam Hyde of all people. And I think I had someone say that I was a zoophile or something in one of these comments, and then saying that I'm an idiot because I have a blue check mark on my Twitter account. But I want to find that one original post because someone called me like a zoophile or something. Yeah, I blocked that account when scrolling through a zoophile's likes. Bro has no place to shit on you. It's like, where do you like? Let me just respond to this a little bit. What does that mean? Like, a zoophile liked something I said on Twitter? Like, am I supposed to police dog every single thing someone says about me on Twitter?
And from what you've told me about the furry community, people like there's a large contingent of the furry community who do want to have sex with animals. So it's like if you're interacting with them, part of that contingent is going to interact with you. And this is kind of the weird thing I was considering with all this earlier, Leighton, when I was thinking about your little viral Twitter moment with the furries, is like, I really don't like furry culture. I think I do get it more than I appreciate it. Like, I think it's fucking weird and kind of like deranged, like not deranged, but it's like debaucherous. But at the same time, it's like, I also think people that go to Comic-Con are fucking stupid. Like, I wouldn't waste my time doing that, but that doesn't mean it should be like not allowed. Like that, you know, it's still room for people to like have those communities. And I think it's interesting that you like resonated with so many people in that particular niche.
I mean, the thing about it is that furries are going to be made fun of till the end of time. Like,
rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm fine with it. I'm not here to fucking defend the fandom. There's all kinds of issues within it, you know. And I don't agree with the debaucherous side, I guess. Like, I mean, I don't like I'm not gonna state my position on all that stuff, but I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that the furry fandom does.
I mean, you can disavow like bestiality.
Yeah, I obviously disavow bestiality, but you know, I don't there's a lot of other stuff I don't agree with. I'm not gonna be too specific on, but it is a problem. I mean, but the thing that I don't know where I was going with this.
I don't know. I'm sure this was a weird curveball for Jake. Like, there's no way.
Like Jake is like
I don't know what this means. I don't know what this if this is like a good or a bad thing for me. But like, as far as I see it, it's like this is the freedom stream. So, like, as much as we can not censor and just like be honest and like talk, like I like. Just being openly the way that I would to somebody in private, it's kind of like the mission statement here. So,
yeah,
you know, and I think it's a testament because I'm so disconnected from what you are doing on Twitter there. Like that, you know,
I live in like 3 different worlds.
Yeah.
I'm playing 4D chess out in my reality. But I mean, yeah, and then there's quite a few of the furries that follow us on LNFS, which is cool. We love you guys. If you guys watch us, we want to try to get some more on here in the coming weeks. But
yeah, I was thinking about that too, though. I'm just like, are we just gonna get like toxic furry trolls as our fans? Because that's definitely
I had some message me. I had one message me, and I'm not going to state his name because he follows me on Twitter, but he messaged me and he said that he wanted to be on the stream. And he's just like, he's this fucking, like, I don't want to say the word. I can't say the word because if I do, we'll get banned off of Facebook. But he's a Nimrod.
Like
he's a Nimrod, and his entire political views are completely based in being the most edgiest person he possibly can, and he argues with everybody. So no, I'm not gonna have him on the stream.
Wait, is he like the Kanye route? Is he going down the Kanye route?
Not the Kanye route, more like a mentally disabled. I would say, I would say a mentally disabled Kanye.
He's a handicapped neo-Nazi, is what you're trying to say here.
No, not neo-Nazi, kinda. I don't know. He just argues a lot, and he has a really like weird voice, which is a big no-no in the streaming world. Except I got a weird voice. But yeah, I mean, he is obviously there's people I'm not going to bring onto the stream, you know, because you know it wouldn't work.
Right.
Like, nobody wants to listen to a guy ramble on.
We need to move off this topic. Like,
yeah.
I'm enjoying this, but this is not good TV considering the guest we have right now. We're not.
At the end of the day, Fiona, I don't hate you. Just know that. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, Fiona, if you're watching the stream, get some help. Get a job. Get some hobbies that aren't fucking weird.
Yeah, get a job that isn't OnlyFans.
For real. Jake, we're getting close to the end of the show here. What's going on in your cranium over there?
Well, trying to disconnect from that last topic as much as I can.
I'm sure it traumatized you a little bit. You kind of looked a little like bewildered.
Well, what's funny about it is ever since this, I can tell that you're like filling your oats about it. Like you've been like big balling on Twitter ever since that happened, flexing for the new followers.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm getting this amount of traction, obviously I'm gonna ride the wave, and you can take advantage.
Yeah, gosh, 35,000. What is that? Like likes or
impressions?
How do they measure impressions? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, like, are you gonna blame me? Like, if anybody got that amount of reaction from their tweet, like, they're gonna write it, you know?
Yeah, no,
Like,
I'm not hating the
you can make
game.
fun of me
I'm
for it.
not
I
hating
don't
the
care.
player. Not hating the player, just teasing about
That
the
is the
game.
game.
I had a few people say that I'm just going crazy because I reached 100 followers, but it's like I've been this way since I got my Twitter account. I haven't done much different.
Yeah, many nights after stream, he's just like scrolled through his likes, and I'm like, Leighton, I gotta go. You're giving me brain cancer looking at all the shit you like on Twitter.
My likes are out there. I like all kinds of schizo shit.
Leighton, stop it. We're talking about you again. We're supposed to be talking about Jake.
Yeah, Jake.
Yeah, well, we've talked about a number of topics. Some of them we moved off on that, like, you know, I'm still interested in, but, you know, I'm not sure how much we want to go back and reflect on, reemerge some of those. I'm interested in
I'm game for
religious.
whatever.
I'm interested in religious topics. I love political talk. I like that topic about anti-Semitism. I don't quite know how to think about that. That's interesting as well. Kind of how to unravel that, like if something is or is not anti-Semitic.
We've been talking about that a lot on the show recently. It's been a big debate on the right, I feel, and on the left as well because of the pro-Palestine stuff and whatnot.
Check out this document I shared with you. It's from the U.S. Department of State, and it is their working definition of anti-Semitism.
Oh, this ought to be good.
Contemporary examples of anti-Semitism. Calling for, aiding, or justifying the killing or harming of Jews, often in the name of a radical ideology or an extremist view of religion.
I'd say that's fair. That's a fair categorization.
Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as a collective, especially but not exclusively the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling media.
Yeah, don't say nothing about that.
I'm going to
anti-Semites.
I'm going to disavow.
That's just so specific. Like, that's like really specific.
That is really specific. I mean, it is real though.
Right. What's real, Leighton?
No, I'm saying it is like an actual like thing people believe.
Right.
Not saying I believe it, but you know.
Okay, I got you.
Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group, the state of Israel, or even for acts committed by non-Jews. That's a little vague. Accusing the Jews as a people or Israel as a state of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. Accusing Jews.
Nick Fuentes has entered the chat.
Don't get him talking about Cookie Monster. Accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interest of their own nations.
I mean, that's not that is if you are a dual citizen with Israel, you're gonna have a vested interest in Israel. I feel like that's a bit rich.
Yeah,
but
using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism to characterize Israel or Israelis. Can't use Pepe's, guys.
Or there's the Merchant. I don't know if you've seen that on Twitter, but like the cartoon, I think it's from like the 80s of like.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Pretty flattering depiction of a merchant.
I thought it's kind of like a soy jack now, kind of. Drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. Blaming Israel for all interreligious or political tensions. Double standard for Israel. Applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. Multilateral organizations focusing on Israel only for peace or human rights investigations. Denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination and denying Israel the right to exist. That's all.
What? I
Wow.
wonder what your impression is as like I feel like the left is like pretty in lockstep about like openly hating Israel right now.
Yeah, that's been my impression.
Okay, so I'm not crazy. Like, I mean, it's pretty open.
Yeah.
Which is we talked about this before, and it's really interesting to me because, like I said before, like one of my favorite commentators is Gavin McInnes. I'm not ashamed to admit that. He was the founder of the Proud Boys, in case you're not familiar with him. But he also was one of the original creators of Vice magazine. So I subscribe to his network. So I rub elbows with a lot of people on like the far right. You know what I mean? Or like there's some like overlap where some people that will watch like his network censored.tv. Some of those people will also watch like cozy.tv, and cozy.tv is Nick Fuentes's thing. So it was the first time in a long time where I saw people, not Gavin McInnes, but like some of his fans and stuff, where there's that overlap with, with just like alt-right shows, I guess you would call it. I hate that term alt-right, but you get what I'm trying to say here. But it was the first time where I saw people on like the extreme left and the extreme right have unity over hating Jews. I'm like, what is happening right now? It's very bizarre.
Yeah, war is a real big deal, and 32,000 dead Gazans is no joke. It's can't quite tell if that number is inflated or not because those are from the Gaza Health Ministry, but yeah, I mean it's gross, what's happening, and that's really motivating for a lot of people to really reflect on their positions.
I hate extremist Muslims just as much as I hate like terrible. I feel like you can't even say that you hate the Jays like in a sentence without like my stream just being taken down. Like I meant that like
Jew.
but that's isolated.
Yeah, I mean, like I think that's some type of stereotyping when you're saying that like hate an entire group of people. But
Right.
I mean, I definitely recognize that religious beliefs, they cause a great deal of harm throughout history. They have, and people who believe that they have God on their side, they can do enormous harm. And yeah, I'm concerned that is going on in Israel, where they're like, we have God on our side. This is holy land because the Bible said so. And like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the legitimacy of it all. I do question.
I feel like the way that I've observed this conflict going out is it seems to me that the left sides with Palestine because they see Palestine as the Native Americans and they see Israel as colonizers who came and invaded. So they're using like this American politics lens and projecting it onto them. And so it's like very weird, trying to use like our Western perceptions of like the founding of America over there because, and the reason that I'm illustrating this point this way is because I've seen a movement with one of my friends, Evan. I've tried to get him on the show. He's like a leftist, like a gay leftist downtowner. And I had to unfriend him for a while because the pro-Palestine propaganda on his page was so strong. And I was just trying to explain to him. I've tried to have him on the show. He's a little, he doesn't want like to be clipped out and like made fun of. He's very worried about that, which I get. That's why I appreciate you coming on the show. And I mean, this has been a really good episode. I've enjoyed this more than like maybe the last couple.
Nobody makes clips of our stream anyway, so
I wish they would.
there are a lot of moments.
But like gays for Palestine, like leftists, so like it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But as far as Sharia law or like any like honest Muslim is, like gays, Westerners, like you're not welcome. Like you get thrown off of the roof of a tall building. You'd be burnt. Like the Taliban, Hamas, Muslim extremists, not what you would necessarily call tolerant of different ideas.
Definitely.
So it's a very strange kind of like it's a weird fragile alliance.
Alliance. Sorry, between which parties?
Like just leftists, and especially gay and trans leftists being pro-Palestine, I find incredibly
Well, their right to like exist, their right to life, you know, not their like, you know, how they support their, you know, their legal systems or what have you, their justice systems, but their right to exist, to live, to be alive. That's a real big deal. Taking that away from folks, can't really undo that.
Well, that I could see. I mean, I it's just it kind of comes back to what we were talking about earlier too, where it's this like being worried about another nation, and especially a nation that would have you eradicated if they could.
Yeah.
You know.
I'll tell you, like the fact that they are responding, like I don't think that most anybody has issue with that. You know, like they have a legitimate threat, and something has to be done. But it's the strategies that they're employing is just so over the top. And I'm no military expert or anything. It just seems so blunt. It's so, I mean, just absolutely devastating. And I mean, done with like American missiles and bombs, you know, is just all the more heartbreaking. And you know, like I'm ashamed that my tax dollars fund that type of blunt force that's just killing so many folks. I would think that more targeted strikes are possible. And something that's really pissing me off too is that, like, you know, the Israel is saying that this is that like they're doing this. I mean, for the hostages, right? You know, they'll leverage the hostages politically, but then when it actually comes to saving them, like I can't imagine how many of them have gotten blown up by the indiscriminate bombing that's going on, and it's confirmed that Israel, the Israel military force is, you know, they have killed at least 3 hostages, but by gunfire, by mistaking them for Hamas. And it's just you hear 6 stories, you know, like a 6-year-old like throwing rocks or something, like up in the air or something, and he gets shot dead, you know, and it's gross what's going on. A lot of
I said it once before, you know,
indiscriminate.
there's probably more terrible things going on than even are being documented and told to us. And I'm hesitant about a lot of like heartstring stuff, because there is a lot of propaganda going around. But I mean, it's an atrocity, and war is hell. And what's happening to like children on both sides is really awful. And I think it's like, it's kind of a weird thing, because Israel is definitely more powerful than Palestine, but because of their alliance with the US, they don't really have friends in the Middle East, where Palestine does have like some alliances. But oddly enough, the other countries and states around Palestine don't want to take their refugees, because they know that it's dangerous to have their refugees. So it's geopolitically, it's such a fucking weird thing. I just wish we weren't involved in it. This is off topic, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up this episode, because this pissed me off today, and I was so mad about it. And it's very selfish in juxtaposition to what we were just talking about. But just like the way that Facebook, and that's why this episode is named what it is. I might change it later to like, you know, to have the guest in the title or something. But like, it says, Facebook, please let me boost this video, because I haven't been able to boost. We created our Facebook page a couple weeks ago and started streaming like exclusively to that instead of our personal pages, trying to like streamline things, you know. And I figured I could use the boost feature to get it in front of some more eyes, get some more impressions, get some more interactions. And literally, I've not been able to boost one of my posts, because every time I try to boost something, it tells me it's against their terms of service, because it's political content. and it addresses social issues. And they say that it depending on when an election is coming up, like how if you're allowed to boost political content. And I'm a live stream with we have 60 followers, like sub 20 likes on Facebook, like a tiny grassroots thing. And I get suppressed because their algorithms are so sophisticated. Like as we speak, Facebook's algorithm is captioning us. It knows the content of our conversations. It knows who's having the conversation. So they can detect what is going on. But I saw this on Facebook today, and this really fired me up because this is a sponsored ad by Vote 417. And it says, proven voices we can trust. Vote Daniel Kincaid, Scott Christ, and Susan Provenance. Book banning extremists are only one seat away from taking control of the school board. Yet I try to boost my coverage of the Meet the Candidate night at OTC at the school board meeting, literally talking to everybody, like just candidly. You can watch me talk to everybody, and they get to run their ad, but I don't get to run my little nothing video actually covering this grassroots. And it's like this whole thing, like book banning, like that's what they're talking about. And it's so ridiculous. And then, I talk about how advanced Facebook's algorithms are and how they detect all this stuff. Why is Facebook, like I've ran several pages in my day. Never have I ever seen so many spam accounts be allowed to just like continually attack our page. Like we have like 50 messages and all of them look like fake.
The tech support guys saying that our account's going to be deleted if we don't.
Like, and it's all like fake guys being like, I'm from Meta, your account's about to be deleted. Facebook can detect this. I've reported it. And they're just not doing anything about it. Like they want us to get our shit jacked. Like it's such, and they're doing this gearing up for the election this year. They're already interfering.
You think they're specifically discriminating against you and your little?
Well, I think that the algorithm is designed to suppress anything with right-wing opinions or like Republican opinions or that endorses Republican candidates, because that's what I do on this show. But these liberals with Vote 417 get to endorse their candidates that they want you to vote for the school board. But when I talk about it with my little nothing show, there's no reason for them to even know who I am. But because of these advanced algorithms, they're suppressing me. It's insane, dude. Like I couldn't make it up. Like it's fucking ridiculous.
Well, one of the reasons they said it was the one with me holding the gun, they said that it was because of smoking.
Well, that's because I was smoking a cigarette in front of the IRS building. They're like, you can't promote smoking. I'm like, give me a fucking break. Like, I can't talk. I can't have videos about social commentary on local politics or national politics, and I can't smoke a cigarette in my profile picture.
We'll get one, buddy. Don't worry. We'll get one there.
I don't know. I've been wanting to talk about that all day.
It sounds like a rough situation to be seeing left-wing content being sponsored, and then you're wondering how come you can't do the same. How is yours different, except for it being on the right? That's the difference you're able to spot easily.
Right. Oh, and the spam accounts and just like all this like weird red tape that I've run into. Like, and even for an example, like a couple weeks ago when I made a video about Johan Collins and Kevin Dunn and the Outland shutting down and kind of the controversy there and how I was involved in it, blah, 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 blah. And there was a spam account that was sending pictures of my parents' house to me and like threatening my family and shit online. And I made a comment to this fake account, like saying, like if you come to my house, I'll shoot you, essentially. And I have a restriction on my account until the 31st of this month because of that. I don't even know if that spam account ever got removed. Like there was literal snuff they were sending me and like photos of my parents' house, and like the Facebook algorithm just like refused to detect it. Like I swear they're
they
fucking with
they
me.
take threats real seriously. It sounds like more seriously than spam. Even if it wasn't to a fake person, and you didn't mean it. They got trouble and they'll flag that real fast.
In general, Facebook's a garbage website. There's so many deep-rooted issues with the way that it's ran, and it's not just like a political thing, but it's an all-around thing. Like I hear about people getting hacked on Facebook like almost every week.
Oh gosh, yeah. There's this page I used to follow, this like kinesiology page, and he had like 200 something thousand followers, and yeah, his account got hacked like a month or two ago, probably more than 2 months ago, and the stuff that's being posted is just gross, just the most just low grade, low bar, just explicit sexual acts being shown in reels and such. Somebody hacked, and it's obviously not him. He obviously got hacked. He would never completely destroy his account and do this. And I've looked, like he in his personal account, he's commented on it and been like, "This is not me. This is what's happened," and all. And he's trying to work it out with Facebook. But I mean, it's just tragic to see somebody who's put so much effort into building up their platform, and then they get hacked. It was something like he had said that I'll repeat it because it's worth just for the PSA. Somebody had invited him to a stream of some sort, and then the stream, I think it was he clicked on the link and it had like a Facebook login, I think, and it was a fake Facebook page. So he plugged in his login credentials, and then they got him. And then he was scheduled to be he was scheduled to be streaming with these other folks. They got him there. The stream never happened, and then they stole his account.
I wonder if that's why liberals won't debate us.
Leighton, we should try that. That's
message Johan again and be like, "Hey, you want to join the stream? Oops, I accidentally sent you an IP grabber."
What, dude? No, it's crazy how bad Facebook's customer support is. Like,
yeah, they've done nothing about it for 2 months, and the content is still there, and it's just heinous content. It's just awful, and obviously against their policies.
Who is this?
And yet they're, I actually just unfollowed the other day because I was like, maybe they'll fix this. I don't want to, I don't want to leave them too fast. But I mean, it's just after 2 months, just this gross stuff. I'm forgetting.
You'll never get to talk to a person about it. Like, it's all their AI algorithms bullshit. Like, you'll never get to get on the phone and like have this resolved.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. When I mean, it's a really important part of people's lives, and yeah, just that's there seems to be just a real disconnect there. But also, I mean, trying to imagine the customer service team that Facebook would need in order to service the world is pretty substantial. And them as a private company, like I can't really blame them for in that case, they might just be wanting to save money on it. Imagine how expensive that would be.
Mark
Zuckerberg, it's just cheap to pick them up.
Fight me. Just kidding. I wish him and Elon Musk would have fought so bad, but Elon Musk probably would have lost.
Did you know that's a risk? That's a real risk that came up of his Mark Zuckerberg's extreme sport habits. It was a risk in their what do they call that? Like with the stocks.
Oh, their
public companies.
meeting.
They have to disclose stuff.
Yeah,
every year they have to disclose stuff and have like a shareholder meeting. And yeah, that's a real risk on there is his extreme sports antics.
You can get injured doing jujitsu, I guess, but it's not like you're gonna get your neck snapped. Probably not gonna happen. But
not if Elon Musk is an actual fighter.
Yeah, well, dude, here's the thing with that Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg bout. Like, I definitely am a big both of them are like weird like alien people that I'll never be anything like. Like, they're very hard to relate to.
Twitter's
But
better than Facebook.
yeah,
There's still people.
110%. There's still people. At least one of them is Mark Zuckerberg. Might be an Anunnaki lizard person. The jury's still out on that. But Mark Zuckerberg, his fighting's looking pretty good, and then he's a lot younger than Elon Musk. Like, I get why Elon dropped that because you would have looked bad for him.
I think Elon Musk would be the kind of guy to hide a gun whenever he goes there.
Well, he tries to sound tough. Like, I guess he has his like autobiography came out recently. My old boss was reading it, and the only thing I gleaned about the intro is like him talking about how he used to get in fist fights in South Africa all the time with the other school kids, which very well, and maybe that's true, But I don't know.
He beat the shit out of some South Africans as the intro to his book. Motherfucking guy. Like, I mean, Elon Musk, you can hate him all you want, but he is a legend.
I always saw him as a liberal before he bought Twitter.
I thought that too. I thought he was a liberal, but I guess he got Q-pilled.
Yeah, well, because he's like Q-pilled, right?
I don't think he's Republican. I think he believes in QAnon.
He seems pretty I don't know. He seems pretty conservative nowadays for sure. But he, his original pitch to the world was like sustainable energy, like renewable energy, electric cars, which is like a very left-wing thing. Like, you know what I mean? So,
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Teslas suck.
Right.
If you get an expensive car and your first choice is the Tesla, you're a fucking loser. mine like, and it's nothing about it being like environmentally friendly and all that. It looks shitty. Like, it's such a piece of shit car.
Oh, you don't like the Cybertruck design?
The Cybertruck's cool. I like that. The Teslas,
that one's cool.
I like them. I'm more of a Porsche kind of guy. If I could have any car in my life, it would be a Porsche.
I want that Phantom, baby.
Hell yeah.
No, I don't even know. Jake, what's your dream car?
Gosh, well, it depends on like if I'm it's kind of like, do I own it or am I just like using it for a little bit?
Own it. You
own it? Oh man. Yeah. Dude, like something cheap, man, something I can take care of. Maybe like I'd actually like a Toyota RAV4 hybrid. It's like a 2020. I saw that came out and that looked so cool.
What's the name of your car?
It's a Toyota RAV4 hybrid 2020, and it's it gets like 48 miles to the gallon on a highway, and it's got the same. I've got a Subaru Forester, which has treated me very nicely. I've really enjoyed the just the model, the type of car that it is, and it's a very similar style of car, but just that gas mileage, it just unlocks you being able to go across the country.
Okay,
but really, actually,
that's too pragmatic. That's too pragmatic.
You know what want to be even more pragmatic is my dream might be to not own a car, own a bicycle, and live near public transit. That might actually be my dream.
Looks like the kind of car that would hit a bicycle. This is the kind of car I would drive if I'm trying to hit pedestrians.
Bro, okay, man.
No,
I am
for that. Did you know
I am living that life. I am living that life. I got a DUI. I live by bicycle and Uber and public transport.
But man, Springfield doesn't support that. They don't support.
You don't want it, man. You don't want it. Man.
This is the shit I want. A Porsche. Customize the hell out of it.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Dude, imagine me pulling up. Imagine me pulling up. Jacob, what's your dream car?
I want something like
fucking. Sorry, I forget. Sometimes I go by Jacob. Sometimes people call me that. That's
so. Oh, that's your actual name, yeah.
Yeah. I've been going by Jake since I was like in 3rd grade because you know what? There were like I think there were 3 Jacobs in my class, and I'm like, no, I don't want to keep having this confusing. I'm gonna go by Jake, and that's what I did, and that stuck.
Oh, bro. I almost did that. I was in that conundrum at one point. Like
Yeah.
we're probably the same age. I'm 26.
Yeah. I heard that we're like that around our age is it was the most popular male name for a
Yeah.
while.
100%
So
it was.
so yeah, like when we were in school, we were around a lot of Jacobs. Now it's I suppose if you run into that, we kind of get to we get to age each other.
Yeah, no, it's true. Bunch of motherfuckers wrestling with God. I don't know what everybody's parents were thinking with that.
Yeah, Jacob, what's your dream car?
I always wanted like a Baja Bug. Have you seen that? So it's kind of like people will go mudding. They trick their bugs out with like big tires and like big suspension. Oh fuck! It's late. Somebody.
Oh god.
Good night.
That's crazy looking. This looks like something. This looks like the kind of car that your wife probably had more of a decision in than yourself.
No, dude, they're cool because they're like you beat the shit out of them. Like you're constantly like working on them and stuff.
This kind of car reminds me of that guy on Snapchat or whatever that I saw the other day that was saying what was it? He's a straight guy, but he's dating a trans woman.
He's like, my girlfriend has the most feminine penis I've ever seen.
This is the kind of car he would drive, Jacob.
Shut up.
We need to get you a more manlier buggy. Let's think of a dune buggy. Yeah, something like this.
No, maybe like an Abrams tank.
An Abrams tank.
Yeah.
You can probably if you go to Texas.
Dream car would be a Mercedes Sprinter van that I'd convert. That'd be another dream car.
What is it?
A Mercedes Sprinter van, and you'd convert that into a camper van would be the idea.
If there's any car guys watching this, the only person they're relating with here is Leighton.
What, the Porsche 911?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really well liked car, but I mean, I'm not much of a car guy. I just like stuff that are good.
Guys, this is the longest stream we've ever done. This
is like 3.5 hours.
This is the best audience retention we've ever had. Like, I don't even know if I believe that. It says we have 24 people watching this right now.
Yeah, Jake, this is gonna be you.
Yeah, I mean that would be way fun. I'd love to do that. Go out to some climbing crags. Just live out there for a while.
Yeah, that van life can be pretty dope.
You can put free candy on the side of it.
Yeah,
we gotta
go
wrap.
and,
We
hang
gotta
out by
wrap
the
this up though, boys. I'm gonna fucking hate myself at work tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I gotta be at work at 8 a.m. tomorrow, so
I still gotta shower and eat some dinner and shit. So, all right, but Jake, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, been a real pleasure,
dude. We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, sounds good. I enjoyed our chat.
Yeah, yeah, me too. This was a good conversation. This was a lot of fun. Leighton, thank you for your production skills and for, being who you are. You're a star, bud.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to everybody later. Thanks for watching.
Ciao.